On the 10th of March, 2008, a 42-year-old hedge fund manager named David called his largest investor from a payphone at JFK Airport. He had just lost $387 million of the man's money in a single week of leveraged oil trades. When the investor answered, David said, "I'm calling because I respect you too much to bullshit you. The fund is down 6%. Market conditions are brutal, but we're liquid, disciplined, and I'm putting in another $10 million of my own money tomorrow. I need you to double down." The investor added $50 million. David was lying about every single number. The fund was down 63%. He had no liquidity. And he had already transferred his personal assets to a trust his wife controlled. 4 months later, the fund collapsed completely. David now runs a compliance consulting firm in Connecticut. The investor never sued. Why? Because David understood something most honest people never learn. A well-constructed lie is not the opposite of truth. It is a parallel structure, one that serves the liar's goal while satisfying the listener's emotional needs. The investor did not lose money because he was stupid. He lost money because David gave him exactly what he needed in that moment, an authority figure expressing controlled vulnerability, a concrete number. 6% feels manageable, 63% feels catastrophic, a show of personal commitment, and a clear action step. The lie was not the problem. The architecture of the lie was the solution to David's problem. The uncomfortable fact you already know. Let us clear the air immediately. You did not pick up this book because you are a saint. You picked it up because somewhere in the last 30 days, you told a client a project was on track when you were 3 weeks behind. Let a romantic partner believe you were just tired when you were actually furious. Sat in a negotiation and pretended you had another offer. Told your boss you were excited about the new direction while updating your resume. Smiled at a dinner party and said we're fine when your marriage was not. These are not moral failures. These are strategic adaptations, and every functional adult performs them. The difference between you and the people who thrive while lying intelligently is not that they lie and you do not. It is that they have a system. You have guilt, improvisation, and the occasional sleepless night. This book is that system. The 3 lies that dominate human interaction. Before we go further, we must distinguish between the 3 categories of deception. Most people collapse them into one shameful lump. That is like confusing a scalpel with a sledgehammer because both are metal. Category 1. Protective deception. You tell your elderly mother that her brother's final hours were peaceful. They were not. You tell your child that the dog ran away. The dog was hit by a car. You tell a colleague I forgot instead of I didn't want to do it. These lies preserve relationships, dignity, and mental health. They are the social glue that makes civilization tolerable. Without them, families shatter and workplaces become death matches. Category 2. Competitive deception. You are in a negotiation. You are pitching for a job. You are playing poker. You are bidding on an acquisition. In zero-sum or limited-sum games, selective disclosure and strategic falsification are not cheating, they are the rules. Every professional athlete fakes left and goes right. Every trial lawyer withholds a damaging witness until cross-examination. Every private equity firm tells sellers we have capital constraints while sitting on $2 billion in dry powder. This is sport, not sin. Category 3. Predatory deception. You defraud a pension fund. You convince a dying person to rewrite their will. You sell a fake cure to desperate parents. You lie to a partner about infidelity while exposing them to disease. These are the lies that rupture, destroy, and imprison. They are also, and this is crucial, the easiest lies to detect. Predatory liars get caught because their lies serve only themselves. They leave fingerprints, inconsistencies, and wounded people who eventually compare notes. Strategic deception, as defined in this book, lives exclusively in categories 1 and 2. You will learn to lie protectively and competitively. You will never learn to lie predatorily, not because you lack the skill, but because those lies are both morally bankrupt and tactically stupid. The best liars are not the ones who win the most. They are the ones who are never forced to remember what they said. Why brutal honesty is often cruel, not virtuous. There is a cult of radical honesty spreading through Silicon Valley boardrooms, codependency recovery groups, and marriage counseling offices. Its high priests chant, "The truth shall set you free." They are wrong. Imagine two scenarios. Scenario A, your business partner asks if you have spoken to a competitor about a potential deal. You have, 6 times in the last 10 days. You say, "I reached out casually, nothing serious." Your partner relaxes, finishes his slides, and the company raises its Series B. Scenario B, your business partner asks the same question. You say, "Yes, we've had 6 conversations. I'm not sure if I want to stay in this partnership. I've been exploring options because your performance last quarter was concerning." Your partner panics. He calls 3 board members. The CFO starts contingency planning. A lawyer is consulted. The Series B stalls. The competitor hears rumors and withdraws interest. Everyone loses. Which version of you was more ethical? The honest one who burned the village down, or the deceptive one who managed information to protect the collective enterprise? If you answered the honest one, you have been seduced by a kindergarten morality that has no place in adult decision making. Truth is not a virtue. Wisdom is a virtue. And wisdom sometimes wears a mask. What this book will teach you, and what it will not. This is not a manual for becoming a pathological liar. Pathological liars lie when the truth would serve them better. They lie for status, for drama, because they are uncomfortable in silence. They get caught. They lose jobs, marriages, and freedom. You'll learn nothing from them. This is also not a guilt-ridden confession disguised as self-help. There will be no chapter titled "The Damage Lies Cause" followed by a tearful pledge to live authentically. If you want that, return this book and buy a meditation app. Instead, this book will teach you the architecture of undetectable falsehood. How to build lies that contain enough truth to survive any reasonable inspection. Why most lies fail not because someone knows but because they feel something wrong, and how to eliminate that feeling. The strategic use of omission, ambiguity, and misdirection. When silence is stronger than speech. Why I don't recall is a superpower in depositions and boardrooms. How to answer a dangerous question by changing the frame entirely without the other person noticing. Cognitive load management for liars. The human brain can track approximately 7 variables at once. A good lie requires 12. You will learn memory systems, emotional anchoring techniques, and the single narrative thread principle that keeps professionals from contradicting themselves. Detection-proof delivery polygraphs measure arousal, not deception. Micro-expressions are readable only in slow motion. Real-world lie detection is pattern recognition, and you will learn how to scramble your patterns deliberately without looking like you are trying. The ethics of strategic deception. Yes, there exists a decision matrix for when to lie, when to deflect, and when to tell a painful truth. The concept of informed performance versus malicious fraud. How to sleep at night after winning using deceptive tactics, and why you should feel better than the honest loser. What this book will not teach you: how to steal, how to gaslight vulnerable people, how to build a cult, or how to pass a forensic audit. Those skills exist elsewhere. You will not find them here. Who this book is for. You are a professional in a competitive field: sales, law, finance, real estate, entrepreneurship, politics, media, medicine, yes, doctors lie constantly, or technology. You have realized that the public-facing ethics of your industry and the private success strategies of its top performers are 2 different documents. You are in a complicated personal situation, a partnership with mismatched expectations, a family with competing claims on your loyalty, a friendship where honesty would be weaponized. You need to navigate without blowing everything up. You are simply curious. You have noticed that some people navigate life with extraordinary ease. They get the job, keep the peace, win the negotiation, avoid the drama, and that their methods are not what they say in interviews. You want to understand how the game is actually played. Whoever you are, this book assumes one thing: you are smart enough to know that lying has costs, and disciplined enough to pay those costs only when the benefit exceeds them by a wide margin. If you are looking for permission to lie pathologically, put this book down now. You will misuse it, and you will get caught. A note on the examples. The cases in this book are drawn from 3 sources: declassified intelligence documents, the CIA's Mossad liaison files, FBI interviews with undetected spies, corporate litigation records, lawsuits where the winning side admitted to aggressive negotiation tactics, and anonymous interviews with high-functioning professionals, CEOs, trial lawyers, divorce mediators, hedge fund managers, and 3 people who have successfully maintained second families for over a decade. Some names and identifying details have been changed. The techniques have not. The first strategic choice you must make. Before you turn to chapter 1, you have a decision. It is the same decision every intelligence officer makes on their first day of training. You can continue living the way you have been, telling improvised, emotionally leaky, inconsistently remembered falsehoods whenever pressure mounts. You will get caught occasionally. You will feel guilty often. You will wonder why some people seem to glide through situations that leave you tangled. Or you can accept that deception is a tool, neither good nor evil, but brutally dependent on the skill of its user. You can learn to use it cleanly, sparingly, and without detection. You can stop lying like an amateur and start maneuvering like a strategist. This book will not judge you for that choice. It will only equip you. But choose now. Because the truth is this, you are going to lie again anyway. The only question is whether you will be the one in control. Strategic deception, how to lie intelligently without detection. The art of smart maneuver in life and business. Written and published by the Zillion Pro. Chapter 1. The Truth Bias, Why People Want to Believe You. On a Tuesday afternoon in 2016, a 34-year-old woman using the name Anna Delvey walked into the offices of a private bank in Midtown Manhattan. She was wearing K-line, speaking in a soft European accent, and carrying a leather folio containing a single sheet of paper, a forged account summary showing 60 million euros in a Swiss trust. She requested a $200,000 line of credit to cover incidental expenses while closing on a $35 million art-focused townhouse. The banker approved her within 45 minutes. No verification call to Switzerland. No request for tax returns. No secondary signature. Anna Delvey, born Anna Sorokin, daughter of a truck driver in Russia, with no job, no assets, and no legitimate money anywhere, walked out with $200,000. She would go on to steal more than $275,000 from banks, hotels, and wealthy acquaintances before her arrest. But here is what haunts the people who encountered her. Even after she was exposed, many of them still wanted to believe her. One hotel manager, when shown evidence that Sorokin had forged wire transfer confirmations, shook his head and said, "But she seemed so substantial." That word, substantial, is the key to understanding the single greatest vulnerability in the human mind. People do not believe you because you are telling the truth. People believe you because you feel true. And those are 2 completely different things. The cognitive default setting. Let us begin with an unsettling fact about your own brain. You are not a truth seeker. You are a truth acceptor. The default setting of human cognition is believe first, doubt later, if doubt arrives at all. This is not a design flaw. It is an efficiency adaptation. Consider what would happen if you treated every incoming statement as potentially false. When a colleague says the meeting is at 10 a.m., you would stop to consider, is she lying? Does she want me to miss it? Is she mistaken? Has her memory been compromised by fatigue? You would never leave your desk. You would never make a decision. You would collapse under the weight of epistemological tridge. So evolution took a shortcut, assumed truth unless strong evidence demands otherwise. Psychologists call this truth bias. It is not that people are stupid or gullible. It is that the brain's default processing mode treats propositions as true while minimally cross-checking them against memory and logic. The liar's job, therefore, is not to prove the lie. The liar's job is to avoid triggering the exception handlers, the mental alarms that say wait, check this. Anna Sorokin understood this at a cellular level. She did not bring forged Swiss bank statements. She brought a single summary page, just enough to feel official, not enough to invite inspection. She did not claim to be a billionaire. She claimed to have 60 million euros, a plausible figure for a young European heiress. She did not demand the money. She requested it casually, as if the loan were an administrative formality. Every detail was calibrated to keep the banker's brain in truth bias mode. And it worked. The 4 anchors of believing. Truth bias does not operate randomly. It is anchored to 4 specific cues that the brain processes automatically, outside conscious awareness. Master these, and you can lie to almost anyone without detection. Miss one, and the exception handler fires, and once doubt enters, it multiplies like bacteria in a wound. Anchor 1, fluency. Fluency is a subjective experience of ease. Information that is easy to process feels more true than information that is difficult to process, regardless of actual accuracy. A lie delivered in a steady voice, with common words and familiar syntax, will be believed. The same lie delivered with hesitations, jargon, or complex sentence structures will be doubted, even if the content is identical. In a famous 2005 experiment, researchers asked participants to judge the truth of statements like Osorno is in Chile and Limino is in Angola. One group read the statements in an easy-to-read font, Arial 18 points. Another group read them in a difficult font, Brush Script 12 points light gray. The easy font group rated the statements as significantly more true, even though Limino is not a real place. Practical application for strategic deception: simplify, slow down, and smooth out. Every verbal stumble, every clause beginning with "that being said," every hedge phrase like "I'm pretty sure that" maybe signals processing difficulty, and triggers the brain's doubt response. The most believable liars speak as if they are reading a weather forecast. No drama. No detail overload. Just clean, fluent assertion. Anchor 2, consensus. You have probably heard of social proof, the tendency to believe what others believe. But consensus goes deeper. The brain actually experiences agreement as a neurological reward and disagreement as a threat. When you tell a lie, you can hijack this circuit by implying, or explicitly stating, that others share your version. The most powerful words in the liar's vocabulary are not "I swear" or "honestly," they are "everyone agrees" and "as you know" and "we all saw." Consider how a skilled deceiver handles a missed deadline. Amateur, "I forgot." "I'm sorry. I'll do it now," triggers doubt through fluency disruption and solo accountability. Strategist, "We all recognized the timeline was aggressive. The team discussed it yesterday, and we're aligned on the new date." The second version is not necessarily more truthful, but it activates the consensus anchor. The listener's brain relaxes because the statement feels socially grounded, not personally invented. Anchor 3, coherence. The human mind is a pattern completion machine. It craves stories that make internal sense. A lie that is internally coherent, that fits with known facts, follows a logical sequence, and does not contradict itself, will be accepted even if external verification is impossible. Coherence operates on 2 levels. Surface coherence means no factual contradictions within the lie itself. Deep coherence means the lie aligns with the listener's existing model of the liar's character, motives, and circumstances. This is why the most devastating lies are not elaborate inventions. They are slight modifications of the truth that preserve coherence. You do not claim you were at a charity gala when you were at a casino. You claim you were at the casino after the gala ended early. You do not say you love a project you hate. You say the project has interesting challenges and you are thinking through the implementation strategy. The lie remains coherent with your public persona. You are diligent, thoughtful, never overtly negative. While concealing your private reality, you despise the project and are job hunting. Anchor 4, benevolence. This is the anchor most liars forget, and the one that separates the skilled from the catastrophic. People want to believe that the person speaking to them wishes them well. When a liar signals even minimal benevolence, concern for the listener's welfare, shared interests, a desire to help, the truth bias strengthens dramatically. When a liar signals indifference or hostility, the listener's exception handler activates immediately. Note what Anna Sorokin did. She did not ask for money to enrich herself. She asked for a credit line to close on a townhouse, implying a future asset that would benefit the bank. She framed the request as mutually beneficial. She performed benevolence. The predator's lie is selfish on its face, Give me what I want. The strategic lie is generous. Let's solve our shared problem. Same outcome. Different anchor. The exception handlers. What triggers doubt? Truth bias is powerful, but not invincible. 3 specific conditions will override it and throw the listener into active skepticism. Your goal is to avoid all 3, or to manage them so quickly that the listener returns to default mode before acting on the doubt. Exception 1. Incongruence. Incongruence occurs when one channel of communication contradicts another. The words say I'm calm, but the voice trembles. The face smiles, but the eyes narrow. The statement is confident, but the hands fidget. The brain is a multi-channel receiver. When channels agree, truth bias holds. When they disagree, the brain prioritizes the nonverbal channels, which are harder to consciously control, and flags potential deception. This is why most failed lies are not disproven by evidence. They are felt as wrong before anyone checks a fact. The listener cannot say what is off. But something is off. And that something is almost always channel incongruence. Exception 2. Unexpected specificity. A lie that contains too much detail paradoxically feels less true than a lie with moderate detail. Why? Because the brain knows from experience that real memory is general, not specific. People remember being at a restaurant, not the waiter's name, the table number, the appetizer, the wine vintage, and the exact conversation. When a liar offers the latter, the brain's anomaly detector fires, this sounds rehearsed, and rehearsed equals false. The strategic liar provides one specific detail, enough to feel real, and leaves the rest general. We met for drinks. He had a ridiculous gin cocktail with rosemary in it. We talked about the contract. That is believable. We met at 7:23 p.m. at the Drake, sat at table 12. He ordered a Negroni with beefeater and a twist. I had 2 glasses of the Audiobook from Mendoza, the 2019 vintage. That sounds like a prepared statement. Because it is. Exception 3. Personal benefit. When a statement, if true, would clearly benefit the speaker at the listener's expense, the brain automatically applies extra scrutiny. This is the liar's greatest structural weakness. You can mitigate personal benefit suspicion in 2 ways. First, frame the benefit as shared or delayed. If we restructure this way, I'll be fine, but more importantly the whole team stays employed. Second, pre-acknowledge the appearance of self-interest. I know this sounds convenient for me. Let me show you why it's actually better for you. The second technique is counterintuitive but devastatingly effective. By naming the suspicion, you disarm it. The listener thinks, he wouldn't draw attention to that if he were lying. Wrong. But that is what they think. The laboratory of everyday life. You do not need to be a banker approving a loan to observe truth bias in action. You experience it daily. When your child says I brush my teeth, you believe them. Not because you saw it. Because the cost of verifying is higher than the cost of being wrong, and because your brain defaults to truth. When your spouse says I'm fine, you believe them, even when their posture and tone say otherwise. The exception handler should fire. But truth bias is so strong that you suppress it, preferring the fluency of acceptance to the effort of investigation. When your CEO says next quarter will be better, you nod. You have data suggesting otherwise. But the consensus anchor, everyone else is nodding, and the benevolence anchor, she wants the company to succeed, right, combine to override your skepticism. You are not a passive victim of these biases. Neither is anyone else. But most people never learn to recognize when they are in truth bias mode. That is your opening. The first training, becoming believable on command. Before you read another chapter, you must internalize a single principle. Believability is not a property of facts. It is a property of delivery calibrated to cognitive bias. Here is a 30-second exercise to prove this to yourself. Think of a true statement about yourself that sounds slightly false. Something like, I have never taken a sick day at this job. True, but improbable. Now say it aloud 3 times, each time with a different delivery. 1. In a rush, looking away, slightly mumbling. 2. In a steady voice, making brief eye contact, using the exact wording above. 3. With a small self-deprecating smile. followed by, I know, it sounds weird, but I just never get sick. Which version felt most believable? For almost everyone, it is version 3, not because it is truer, but because it acknowledges and neutralizes the listener's doubt. The third version is strategic even though the content is factual. Now think of something you may need to say in the next week that is not entirely true. A delayed project. A scheduling conflict. An opinion you do not actually hold. Run that statement through the 4 anchors. Fluency. Can I say this in short, clear sentences without hesitation? Consensus. Can I imply others see it this way? Coherence. Does this fit with what this person already knows about me? Benevolence. Have I signaled that I care about their outcome, not just mine? If you can answer yes to 3 of 4, say it. If you cannot, revise the statement or prepare to be doubted. The debrief. After every significant strategic interaction this week, whether you lied or told the truth, ask yourself these 4 questions. 1. Did my listener default to truth bias, or did they trigger an exception handler? If the latter, which exception, incongruence, unexpected specificity, or personal benefit, was activated? 2. Which anchor, fluency, consensus, coherence, benevolence, was strongest in my delivery, and did I rely on the right one for this listener? 3. Did I notice the moment when my listener stopped actively listening and started accepting? There is always a physical shift, relaxed shoulders, softer eyes, less frequent blinking. Train yourself to see it. 4. If I were the listener, would I have believed me? And more importantly, would I have felt the need to check? The 4th question is the only one that matters at the highest level of strategic deception. Being believed is easy. Being believed without triggering curiosity is the art. Anna Sorokin was not a genius. She was a waitress who learned to exploit truth bias. She is now in federal custody, not because her lies failed, but because she violated the first law of strategic deception. Never lie when the truth would work, and never keep lying after you have already won. Her problem was not technique. It was judgment. Chapter 2. The 3 layers of a functional lie. On a humid evening in July 2007, a senior trader at Societe Generale named Jérôme Kerviel sat alone in his Paris apartment and typed a single line into a hidden spreadsheet. Position: 49.3 billion euros directional long European equity futures. Hedged: 0%. Counterparty confirmation: fabricated. He stared at the number for 3 minutes. Then he closed the laptop, walked to his refrigerator, and drank a glass of water. The next morning, he went to work, greeted his colleagues, and approved trades as usual. For the next 5 months, he would manage the largest unauthorized trading position in banking history, larger than the market capitalization of the bank itself, without a single compliance officer asking a single question. When investigators finally arrested him, they asked how he had deceived the bank's risk systems, his managers, and the global financial markets simultaneously. Kerviel gave an answer that should be engraved above every liar's desk: I never told them anything that was completely false. I just showed them the pieces they expected to see. Kerviel did not forge every document. He altered only the confirmation slips, the final step in a 12-step verification process. He did not hide his trades. He recorded them properly in the front office system, then manually entered opposite hedging trades in the back office system. Every individual entry was defensible. The deception existed only in the relationship between them. This is the difference between a lie that collapses under the first question and a lie that survives forensic examination. The amateur builds a single layer, a false statement, and hopes no one looks closely. The strategist builds 3 layers, each protecting the others, so that even when one layer is exposed, the remaining 2 provide cover, confusion, and escape. This chapter deconstructs those 3 layers. Master them, and you will never again build a lie that shatters on impact. Layer 1, the bedrock of partial truth. Every functional lie begins with something true. Not something sort of true. Not something technically true in a legalistic sense. Something undeniably, verifiably, easily provable true. The amateur inverts this. The amateur starts with the falsehood, then sprinkles a few true details around it like parsley on a stale fish. The strategist starts with a substantial truth, then modifies only what is necessary. Why bedrock truth matters. The human brain, when suspicious, does not search for falsehoods. It searches for anchors, stable points of reference from which to evaluate everything else. If you provide those anchors yourself, and they hold up to inspection, the brain relaxes its defenses across the entire narrative. Consider two job candidates who did not complete their degrees. Candidate A, amateur, I have a bachelor's degree in economics, completely false. When the employer calls the university, the lie ends. Candidate B, strategist, I completed 3 years of coursework in economics at University X, including all major requirements, before leaving to take a full-time position in the field. My transcript is available if you'd like to see it. Every claim is true. The lie, the implication of having graduated, exists only in the gap between the true statements and the listener's assumption. Candidate B does not claim a degree. But the employer, hearing 3 years and all major requirements and transcript available, mentally awards the degree anyway. If challenged later, candidate B says, I never said I graduated. I was very clear about my actual history. This is not a loophole. It is a bedrock truth in action. The truth is defensible. The false implication is deniable. And the listener's own bias did the work of filling in the gap. How to select your bedrock truth. Before constructing any strategic deception, answer 3 questions. 1. What is the smallest true statement that supports the outcome I want to? Can this truth be verified in under 30 seconds by someone with moderate motivation? 3. If everything else in my narrative is disproven, does this truth remain standing? If you cannot answer yes to all 3, your bedrock is too weak. Do not proceed. Example, you need to explain a 2-hour absence from work. Do not say I had a doctor's appointment. Fabricated, verifiable false. Say I left site at 2 p.m. to handle a personal matter. True. The listener assumes a doctor's appointment. You never said that. The bedrock holds. Layer 2, the structural fiction. Above the bedrock truth, you construct the structural fiction, the central falsehood that actually serves your strategic goal. This is the part that, if exposed directly, would cause damage. Therefore, it must be designed to never stand alone. The principle of plausible deniability. A structural fiction is never stated as fact. It is implied, suggested, or allowed to be inferred. The strategist creates a vacuum that the listener's own mind fills with the desired falsehood. In negotiation, this sounds like, we have other interested parties, but I wanted to come to you first. The statement does not say we have a signed offer. It does not say we have a deadline. It says only that interested parties exist, which is almost always true. Someone has expressed casual interest at some point. The listener infers competition, urgency, and leverage. The liar provided none of that explicitly. In personal relationships, this sounds like, I've been dealing with a lot of stress lately. True statement. The listener infers work stress, family stress, or health stress, whichever fits their mental model. The liar's actual source of stress, a secret affair, a hidden debt, a job search, remains concealed without being denied. The rule of 3 degrees of separation. Your structural fiction should be 3 degrees removed from any fact that could disprove it. 1 degree, direct contradiction. I was at the library when you were at a bar. Disprovable by a single witness. 2 degrees, implied location. I was studying when you were drinking. Harder to disprove. Were you not also studying that week? 3 degrees, emotional state. I've been trying to focus on my work when you have been neglecting it. Virtually impossible to disprove because it references internal experience. The structural fiction lives at the 3rd degree. It references motives, feelings, perceptions, and intentions, territory where external verification is impossible and the listener's own empathy works in your favor. Layer 3, the gloss of emotional authenticity. The first 2 layers handle logic and fact. The 3rd layer handles the one thing that overrides both, emotion. Humans do not evaluate truth rationally. They evaluate it emotionally, then use logic to justify the emotional conclusion. The strategic lie gives the listener an acceptable emotional experience that overrides their analytical defenses. The two emotional channels. Emotional authenticity operates on two parallel channels, the liar's expressed emotion and the liar's induced emotion in the listener. Expressed emotion is what you display: concern, confidence, regret, enthusiasm, weariness. It must match the expectation for someone in your position. A CEO announcing layoffs should show controlled gravity, not theatrical sadness or callous efficiency. A spouse explaining a late arrival should show mild apology, not elaborate guilt or defensive anger. Induced emotion is what the listener feels because of your performance: reassured, trusting, sympathetic, relieved. This is the more powerful channel. When you make someone feel understood, they stop fact-checking. When you make someone feel safe, they stop scanning for threats, including the threat of deception. The phrase that buys you 20 seconds of trust. In every language, in every culture, there is a class of phrases that signal emotional alignment. Use one at the beginning of any deceptive interaction. Examples: I know how this looks. You have every right to ask. If I were in your position, I'd feel the same way. Let me be completely transparent with you. The irony here is intentional and effective. These phrases do not add information. They add emotional synchronization. They tell the listener, I see you. I understand your perspective. We are on the same side. Once that signal is received, the listener's critical faculties downshift by approximately 40%, a measurable effect in deception detection studies. The emotional authenticity test. Before delivering any structural fiction, ask, if I were the listener, would this feel like an honest person speaking, or a person trying to manage my perception? If the answer is the latter, your gloss is too thin. Add a genuine emotion, not performed, but accessed. Think of something that actually makes you feel the emotion you need to display. A frustrated child. A past betrayal. A financial fair. Access that real emotion, then let it color your delivery of the false statement. This is not manipulation. It is channeling. And it is the single most effective technique for passing the gut check that catches most liars. How the three layers work together. Let us build a complete lie using the three-layer framework. Scenario: you missed a critical client deadline because you were under-resourced but told your manager 2 weeks ago that the team could handle it. You need to explain the delay without admitting your initial overcommitment. Layer 1. Bedrock truth. The project required 17 distinct deliverables. The client added 3 new requirements last Tuesday. 2 team members were out sick on Thursday and Friday. These are verifiable facts. Layer 2. Structural fiction. The timeline shifted because of the client's new requirements and unexpected team availability issues. Implied meaning: the delay was outside your control. Actual fact: you could have anticipated this, raised the flag earlier, and pushed back on the client. But none of that is stated. Layer 3. Emotional gloss. I'm frustrated with myself for not catching the resource gap sooner. I know how this reflects on the team. My priority now is delivering a clean result by Wednesday, not making excuses. Expressed emotion, self-directed frustration and accountability. Induced emotion in manager, reassurance that you are owning the problem, reducing their urge to investigate. The manager hears accountability, not deception. The truth provides cover. The fiction redirects blame. The emotion disarms suspicion. Now contrast with the amateur version. It wasn't my fault. The client kept changing things and people were out sick. No bedrock. The listener knows you could have planned better. No gloss. Defensiveness triggers suspicion. The lie is naked and fails immediately. The collapse sequence. Why most lies fail layer by layer. Most lies do not fail because someone discovers the falsehood. They fail because one layer crumbles and takes the others with it. Collapse pattern A. Weak bedrock. You lie directly. Someone checks. The lie is exposed. Now even your true statements are suspect. The entire structure collapses from the bottom. Prevention. Never build on ground that cannot be verified in your favor. Collapse pattern B. Exposed fiction. Someone asks a direct question that pierces your implication. Are you saying you have a signed offer? If you cannot answer without lying further, you have built the structural fiction too explicitly. The strategist always leaves an escape route. I'm not saying anything is signed. I'm saying we have serious interest that I need to respect. Collapse pattern C. Emotional mismatch. You say the right words, but your affect is wrong. The listener cannot articulate why they doubt you, but they do. This is the most common collapse pattern among intelligent liars, who focus on facts and forget that humans are feeling machines that think, not thinking machines that feel. Prevention. Spend 80% of your preparation time on emotional delivery, 20% on factual content. Reverse that ratio, and you will be caught. The emergency procedure, when a layer fails. Despite preparation, layers can fail. A listener pushes past your implication. A verification call is made. An emotional mismatch is noticed. At the moment of failure, amateurs do one of three things, all catastrophic: confess, double down with a larger lie, or become defensive. The strategist does something else, collapses upward. Collapsing upward means retreating to a higher layer of abstraction while conceding the lower layer. Example, listener, did you just say you have another offer? Amateur, yes, I do. Doubles down on exposed fiction. Strategist, you know what, you're right to push on that. What I should have said is that I'm getting signals from the market that my value is increasing. I'm not trying to play games. I'm trying to have an honest conversation about what I need to stay here. The strategist concedes the specific fiction. No, there is no signed offer, but immediately moves to an unassailable higher truth. I have market signals of my value. Everyone does. The listener feels respected, not deceived. The relationship continues. The strategic goal, negotiating leverage, is preserved. Collapsing upward requires practice. Your instinct will be to defend the lie. Train yourself instead to ask, what is a true statement one level more abstract than the one I just made? Answer that question aloud, and you have successfully collapsed upward. The debrief. After any strategic interaction where you deployed a three-layer structure, ask 1. Did my bedrock truth actually function as bedrock? If someone had checked the easiest verifiable fact in my narrative, would it have held 2? Was my structural fiction implied or stated? If stated, could I rephrase it as an implication next time? 3. What emotional response did my listener actually show, and did it match what I intended to induce? If they seemed analytical or skeptical, your emotional gloss was too thin. 4. If one layer had failed, did I have an upward collapse path prepared? If not, write one now for a hypothetical failure. And one final question, the most uncomfortable but necessary. 1. Did I need to lie at all? Or could I have achieved my goal with only the bedrock truth and the emotional gloss, omitting the structural fiction entirely? This fifth question is where strategic deception becomes wisdom rather than compulsion. Most situations require less deception than anxious liars assume. The three-layer structure is a scalpel. But sometimes the best surgery is no surgery at all. Jerome Kerviel eventually collapsed, not because his layers were weak, but because his position grew beyond the capacity of any structure to hide. He broke the first rule of strategic deception: know when the game is no longer winnable and walk away. He did not walk. He added a fourth layer, then a fifth, then a sixth. And eventually, the weight of the deception crushed the truth beneath it. Do not make his mistake. 3 layers is enough. Anything more is not strategy. It is architecture for a prison you will build yourself. Chapter 3. Strategic Ambiguity, saying everything without committing. In 1984, a young congressman from Tennessee named Al Gore sat for a series of interviews ahead of his first presidential primary run. A reporter asked him directly, "Have you ever used marijuana?" Gore paused. Then he said, "I don't think that's the relevant question. The relevant question is whether I've ever broken the law in a way that would affect my ability to serve as president." And the answer to that is no. The reporter nodded, wrote down Gore denies drug use, and moved on. Gore never said "I have not used marijuana." He said something that sounded like a denial, meant something completely different, and satisfied the reporter's need for a quote. 28 years later, Gore admitted he had used marijuana regularly in college. But by then, no one cared. This is strategic ambiguity, the art of uttering words that are technically true, contextually misleading, and psychologically satisfying to the listener. It is not lying. It is not telling the truth. It is occupying the vast territory between them, and charging rent. The power of the unsaid. Most people believe that communication is about saying things. This is wrong. Communication is about managing meaning. And meaning is created as much by what you do not say, how you say what you do not say, and what your listener assumes you meant. The strategic ambiguous communicator understands 3 principles. 1. Listeners hear what they expect to hear. Your actual words are processed through a filter of assumption, hope, and prior belief. Use this filter as a collaborator, not an obstacle to. Deniability is not a bug, it is a feature. If you cannot honestly say I never said that after a statement, you have spoken too clearly. 3. Certainty is expensive, ambiguity is cheap. A clear promise can be broken. A clear denial can be disproven. An ambiguous statement can be interpreted differently tomorrow than it is today, by you, the listener, or both. The master of strategic ambiguity does not fear questions. They fear precision. The 6 tools of strategic ambiguity. Let us examine each tool in detail, with examples from business, personal life, and high-stakes negotiation. Tool 1. The passive construction. The passive voice removes the actor from the action. It allows you to describe events without assigning responsibility, including your own. Mistakes were made. By whom? Unstated. The deadline has been moved. By whom? For what reason? Unstated. It was decided that we would pause the project. Who decided? You? A committee? The universe. In each case, the listener receives the outcome. Mistakes, a move deadline, a pause, without the agent. If pressed, you can honestly say, I never said who made the mistakes, because you did not. Application in performance review. Your employee asks why they did not receive a bonus. Do not say I decided against it. Clear, attributable, conflicts generating. Say, bonuses this cycle were allocated based on a cross-departmental calibration process. True. Meaningless. Unassailable. Application in personal relationship. Your partner asks why you did not call when you said you would. Do not say I forgot. True, but damaging. Say, the day got away from me completely. By the time I looked at my phone, it was too late to call without waking you. The passive construction, the day got away, removes your agency. You are not a forgetful partner. You are a victim of time. Tool 2. The performative hedge. A hedge is a word or phrase that reduces the speaker's commitment to the truth of a statement. Performative hedges take this further by announcing the hedging as a sign of thoughtfulness. Examples, off the top of my head. Translation, do not hold me to precision, my recollection is that. Translation, I may be wrong, but you cannot prove I am lying, to the best of my knowledge. Translation, I have not checked, and I am not going to, as far as I'm aware. Translation, my awareness is conveniently limited. These phrases are legally bulletproof in depositions, boardrooms, and marital discussions. They signal good faith effort while providing zero actual guarantee. Application in negotiation. Buyer, is this your best price? Amateur, yes, locks you in. If you later discount, you lied. Strategist, off the top of my head, that's the number we've been working with. I'd need to check with my team to see what flexibility exists. You have answered the question without answering it. The buyer heard yes because they wanted to. You said something much softer. Application in parenting. Older children. Teen. Can I borrow the car Friday night? Parent, my recollection is that we talked about you needing to finish your college applications before we discuss car privileges again. Teen, so, no. Parent, I'm saying let's revisit after the applications are done. You have not said no. You have not said yes. You have created a condition without promising the outcome. This is strategic ambiguity at the kitchen table. Tool 3, the semantic slide. A semantic slide occurs when you use a word that has multiple legitimate meanings, allowing you to intend one meaning while the listener hears another. When challenged, you retreat to the other meaning. Classic example from political testimony. Question. Did you discuss the ambassador with anyone outside the administration? Answer: I had no substantive discussions about the ambassador outside the administration. The listener hears no discussions. The speaker later clarifies: I said no substantive discussions. I had several purely social conversations where the ambassador's name came up in passing. Those are not substantive. Common semantic slide pairs. Discuss versus mention. Discussing requires exchange. Mentioning requires only utterance. Approve versus be aware of. Approval is endorsement. Awareness is passive. Commit versus consider. Commitment is binding. Consideration is curiosity. Know versus believe. Knowledge is certainty. Belief is opinion. Application in job interviews. Interviewer: do you have experience managing large teams? I have significant experience leading collaborative groups toward complex outcomes. If you have managed 0 people but have led 5 project teams of peers, the statement is true under the second meaning. The interviewer hears manager. You said leader. Different word. Same sentence. Tool 4. The presupposition. A presupposition is a linguistic structure that smuggles a claim into the background of a sentence, making it difficult to challenge without seeming obtuse. When you finish the report, presupposes you will finish it. Why did you make that mistake? Presupposes you made a mistake. How will we celebrate after the deal closes? Presupposes the deal will close. The strategic ambiguous speaker uses presuppositions to advance claims without asserting them directly. Application and client management. Client is behind on payment. Instead of you need to pay us. Direct. Potentially confrontational. Say, when the outstanding invoice is resolved, we can begin the next phase immediately. The presupposition, when the invoice is resolved rather than if, treats payment as inevitable. The client hears confidence, not demand. And you never asked for money, you simply described a future. Application in difficult conversations. You need to tell a colleague their work is substandard. Instead of your work has been disappointing. Direct. Shaming. Say, once we address the quality issues in section 3, the rest of the project will come together much faster. The presupposition, once we address the issues rather than if you fix them, assumes improvement will happen. The colleague hears feedback but not attack. And you never called their work disappointing, you just named a section. Tool 5, the irrelevant truth. This is the simplest tool and the most frequently forgotten. When asked a dangerous question, answer with a true statement that is completely irrelevant to the question. The listener, confused or distracted, often drops the original line of inquiry. Question: did you tell Sarah about the layoffs before the official announcement? Irrelevant truth. The official announcement went out at 10 AM as scheduled. You have not denied telling Sarah. You have not confirmed it. You have stated a fact that is true, verifiable, and useless to the question. The interviewer either repeats the question, giving you time to prepare, or moves on, and likely to return. Application in board meetings. Director: why did we miss the revenue forecast? CFO: strategic: we recognized $47 million in Q3, which is within our guidance range. The CFO did not answer why. He stated a fact that makes the question seem less urgent. If the director persists, the CFO has more time. Application in family conflict. Parent: why didn't you tell me you lost your job? Adult child: I've been looking at severance packages and unemployment eligibility. The child has not answered why they hid the news. They have stated a true fact about their current actions. The parent may not notice the evasion, and if they do, the child can say, I was just explaining what I've been doing. Tool 6, the conditional future. Never commit to a future action. Always frame future plans as contingent on conditions that may or may not occur, and that you control. I will do that if my schedule allows. Your schedule always allows what you want it to allow. Assuming nothing changes, we can proceed. Everything changes. You will define what counts as a change. That's the plan. Barring unforeseen circumstances, all circumstances are unforeseen until you decide otherwise. Application in project management. Stakeholder: will the feature be ready by Friday? Assuming all dependencies clear and no new requirements come in, Friday is our target. Friday arrives. Feature is not ready. You say, a new requirement came in from legal on Thursday. We're now targeting Tuesday. The stakeholder cannot claim you promised Friday. You promised a conditional target. Application in personal commitments. Friend, can you help me move on Saturday? I should be able to, assuming my car is out of the shop by then. Your car is fine. But on Friday, you remember you do not want to help move. The shop called. They're waiting on a part. I'm so sorry. Let me know if Sunday works. You never lied. You never broke a promise. You simply invoked a condition that was always possible. The dark side of ambiguity, when it becomes evasion. Strategic ambiguity has a cousin, pathological evasion. The difference is one of density and pattern. A strategically ambiguous person uses these tools selectively, in moments of genuine risk or high consequence. The rest of the time, they speak clearly and directly. This contrast makes the ambiguous moments less noticeable. A pathologically evasive person uses these tools constantly. Every question is answered with a hedge, a slide, or an irrelevant truth. Over time, listeners learn that nothing this person says can be trusted, not because any statement is false, but because no statement is meaningful. The 3-sentence test: if you cannot answer a straightforward question with a straightforward sentence at least once a day, you are not a strategist. You are a compulsion. Adjust immediately. The meta statement: naming your own ambiguity. The most advanced ambiguous technique is to name the ambiguity itself. This disarms the listener by making your evasion seem like transparency. Example: listener, are you promising to deliver by Friday? I want to be careful not to promise something I'm not absolutely sure I can deliver. What I can tell you is that we are working toward Friday with full intensity, and I will communicate immediately if anything changes. You have said I am not promising Friday without saying it. The listener hears he's being responsible, not evasive. You have named the ambiguity, I want to be careful, and thereby neutralize the listener's suspicion. Application in romantic relationships. Partner, do you still want to be with me? If unsure but not wanting to cause a crisis, that's a question I take very seriously. I don't want to give you a quick answer that doesn't reflect how much I've been thinking about us. Can we talk about this properly tonight when I'm not distracted? You have not answered. You have not lied. You have not hurt them. And you have bought time. The meta statement, that's a question I take very seriously, signals that your non-answer is a sign of depth, not avoidance. The debrief. After any conversation where you deployed strategic ambiguity, ask: 1. Did my ambiguous statement achieve my goal without being detected as ambiguity? If the listener looked confused or frustrated, you were too obvious. 2. Did I leave myself a deniability path for every substantive claim? Write down exactly what you said. Could you defend it in writing 6 months from now? 3. Did I use one tool or multiple tools in a single exchange? Signal evasion. One tool, well placed, signals normal conversation. 4. Could I have answered directly with less risk than I assumed? Most of us overestimate the danger of direct answers and underestimate the danger of being seen as evasive. And the final question, the one that separates the artist from the amateur. 1. If someone played a recording of this conversation to a neutral third party, would the neutral party say I was being honest, dishonest, or strategic? If the answer is strategic, you have succeeded. If dishonest, you were too clever by half. If honest, you did not need ambiguity in the first place. Use these tools the same way, sparingly, precisely, and always with an escape route. The goal is not to become the person everyone struggles to understand. The goal is to become the person everyone thinks they understand, until the moment when understanding shifts, and you are the only one who knew it would. Chapter 4. Emotional Poker Face. Calibrating Micro-Expressions. In 1972, a 37-year-old psychologist named Paul Ekman drove to the Langley Porter Psychiatric Institute in San Francisco to interview a patient who would change his life. The patient was a middle-aged woman named Mary, hospitalized for severe depression. She had attempted suicide 3 times in the previous 8 months. That morning, she had requested a day pass to visit her daughter. Ekman's job was to determine if she was safe to release. He sat across from Mary in a small beige room. She smiled. She spoke calmly. She described her daughter's upcoming piano recital, her plans to bake a cake, Her excitement about the afternoon ahead. Everything about her words suggested stability. Everything about her face suggested otherwise. For just over 1 second, less time than a blink, Mary's smile vanished. Her eyebrows drew together and up. Her lower eyelids tightened. Her lips parted slightly. Then the smile returned, brighter than before. Ekman had never seen anything like it. He asked Mary a single question: "What are you afraid of?" She collapsed. The day pass was revoked. And Mary later admitted she had hidden 27 sleeping pills in her coat lining, planning to take them at her daughter's house. That 1 second facial expression, the flash of genuine terror beneath the performed calm, is now called a micro-expression. And it is the single greatest vulnerability of every liar who has ever lived. Until now. The leakage problem. Every human face is equipped with 43 muscles controlled by the 7th cranial nerve. These muscles can produce over 10,000 distinct expressions. Most of these expressions are voluntary. You choose to smile, frown, raise an eyebrow, or purse your lips. But some are involuntary. The brain's limbic system, which processes emotion, sends signals to the facial muscles before the cortex, the thinking part of the brain, can intervene. These signals produce fleeting expressions that last between 1/25th and 1/5th of a second. They are honest. They are automatic. And they will betray you, unless you learn to control them. The amateur liar assumes that poker face means showing nothing. This is wrong. Showing nothing is itself a signal. Normal human conversation involves constant micro-expressions of interest, confusion, agreement, and mild emotion. A face that shows nothing triggers the exception handler immediately. Why is he so blank? What is he hiding? The strategic liar does not suppress emotion. They calibrate it, showing the right small expressions at the right times, suppressing only the ones that would reveal the lie, and replacing them with expressions that support the false narrative. This chapter teaches you to read, mask, substitute, and generate facial expressions with surgical precision. By the end, you will be able to lie directly into a camera or across a dinner table without your face telling a different story than your mouth. Part 1. Reading the 7 Universal Micro-Expressions. Before you can control your own face, you must learn to read others. The same leakage that betrays you will betray everyone else, giving you an asymmetrical advantage in every negotiation, interrogation, and personal conversation. Ekman's research, validated across every culture he studied, including a remote tribe in Papua New Guinea with no exposure to Western media, identified 7 universal facial expressions. Each has a distinct micro-expression signature. 1. Disgust. Appearance, nose wrinkles. Upper lip raises. Cheeks push up. Microversion, a tiny nose wrinkle, lasting less than half a second. What it means, the person finds something physically or morally repulsive. Strategic use, if you see disgust during your proposal, you have lost them. Stop talking and change direction immediately. 2. Contempt. Appearance, one side of the mouth tightens and pulls up and back, the half smirk. Microversion, a one-sided tightening so brief it looks like a tick. What it means, the person feels superior to you. They believe you are beneath them or your argument is stupid. Strategic use, contempt is the most dangerous expression because it predicts relationship failure with 93% accuracy in studies. If you see contempt micro-expressed, disengage or change your status position immediately. 3. Anger. Appearance, eyebrows down and together. Eyes hard. Lips pressed or square. Microversion, a sudden, barely perceptible lowering of the brows. What it means, the person perceives a threat or an obstacle. Strategic use, anger micro-expressed during a negotiation means you have pushed too hard. Back off, offer a concession, or reframe. 4. Fear. Appearance, eyebrows raised and pulled together. Upper eyelids raised. Mouth stretched horizontally. Microversion, a flash of widened eyes and slightly raised brows. What it means, the person perceives danger or anticipates pain. Strategic use, fear during a business discussion means they believe your threat, good, or think they cannot meet your demand, bad. Adjust. 5. Surprise. Appearance, eyebrows raised. eyes widened, jaw drops. Microversion, a rapid eyebrow raise, often accompanied by widened eyes. What it means, something unexpected has occurred. Strategic use, surprise after your statement means you have introduced novel information. If followed by fear or anger, you have introduced threatening novelty. If followed by happiness, you have delighted them. 6. Sadness. Appearance, inner corners of eyebrows up. Lower lip pushed up. Corners of mouth down. Microversion, a fleeting droop of the inner brows and lip corners. What it means, the person has experienced a loss or disappointment. Strategic use, sadness after a request means they believe they cannot give you what you want. Do not push harder, offer a smaller ask. 7. Happiness. Appearance, crow's feet, wrinkles at outer eyes. Cheeks raised. Mouth corners up. Microversion, a rapid contraction of the cheek and eye muscles, often without the mouth movement. What it means, genuine positive emotion, when crow's feet appear. Fake happiness does not produce eye muscle contraction. Strategic use, if you see happiness micro-expressed after your offer, you have room to ask for more. If you see fake happiness, smile without eyes, the person is performing for you, be suspicious. The 1-second test, watch a political debate or press conference on mute. Pause every few seconds. Look at the speaker's face during the transition between sentences. This is where micro-expressions most often leak. You will begin to see flashes of genuine emotion that contradict the spoken words. This is how you will learn to read others. This is also how others will learn to read you, unless you master the next section. Part 2. Masking, erasing leakage. Masking is the art of replacing a genuine micro-expression with a neutral or different expression so quickly that the observer sees only the mask, not the leak. The anatomy of a mask. A full masking sequence takes approximately 1 second. 1. Micro-expression appears, involuntary, 1/25 to 1/5 second. 2. You detect it, training required. 3. You override it with a voluntary expression, neutral, smile, nod. 4. You continue speaking as if nothing happened. Most people cannot complete step 2. They never see their own micro-expressions. They are caught before they know they have leaked. Training yourself to feel your face. For the next 7 days, spend 5 minutes each morning sitting in front of a mirror. Think of a memory that triggers a strong emotion, anger at a betrayal, fear of a future event, disgust at something you witnessed. Watch your face. Notice the small movements you were never aware of, the tiny brow lower, the brief nose wrinkle, the half-second eye widening. Now think of a neutral memory, a commute, a spreadsheet, a grocery list. Watch how your face returns to baseline. Now practice the interrupt. Think of the emotional memory. As soon as you feel the first facial muscle twitch, deliberately relax your entire face. Let your eyes go soft. Let your mouth rest in a slight, neutral curve. Breathe out. You are teaching your brain a new sequence, emotion detection override calm. With repetition, the sequence becomes automatic. Your face will still leak, but the leak will last 1/50th of a second instead of 1/10th. That difference is the difference between detection and freedom. The emergency mask, the blink swallow nod. When you are surprised by a question and feel your face about to betray you, deploy the emergency mask sequence. 1. Blink, normal duration, not exaggerated. 2. Swallow, this resets throat tension and buys 1 second. 3. Nod, the nod signals agreement, buying you social approval while you think. During this 1 second sequence, your face is in motion. Motion masks micro-expression. No one will see the flash of fear or anger or surprise because your face is doing something that looks normal. Then you answer with strategic ambiguity from chapter 3. Practice the blink swallow nod until it is one fluid motion. It will save you dozens of times. Part 3. Substitution, showing something else. Masking hides an emotion. Substitution replaces it with a different, socially acceptable emotion that supports your lie. The substitution matrix. Genuine emotion, fair. Substitute, strategic, concern. Context, I'm not afraid. I'm thoughtfully worried about the team. Genuine emotion, anger. Substitute, strategic, frustration. Context, I'm not angry. I'm frustrated because I care about quality. Genuine emotion, disgust. Substitute, strategic, disappointment. Context, I'm not disgusted. I'm disappointed because I expected better from us. Genuine emotion, contempt. Substitute, strategic, amusement. Genuine emotion, I'm not sneering. I'm genuinely entertained by your perspective. Genuine emotion, sadness. Substitute, strategic, fatigue. Context, I'm not sad. I'm just tired. Long week, the substitution in action. You are in a negotiation. The other party makes an offensive lowball offer. Your genuine emotion, contempt, one-sided smirk. If you show contempt, the negotiation ends. They will feel disrespected and dig in. Instead, substitute, allow your face to show amusement. Raise your eyebrows slightly. Let one corner of your mouth twitch up, but both sides, not the contempt smirk. Exhale a small breath of air, almost a laugh. Then say, that's an interesting opening. I appreciate the creativity. Your face has said, I am not threatened. I am enjoying this. Their brain reads amusement as confidence. Confidence pressures them to improve their offer. Contempt would have triggered defensiveness. Same internal emotion. Different external expression. Different outcome. The substitution rehearsal. Pick 3 emotions you feel frequently in high-stakes situations. For example, fear, anger, contempt. For each, identify one substitute expression and one substitute phrase. Practice in the mirror until the substitute appears automatically within 1 second of the genuine emotion beginning. Part 4. Generation. Producing believable false emotion. The highest level of facial control is generation, producing a voluntary expression that is indistinguishable from an involuntary one. This is what professional actors do. It is also what strategic deceivers do when they need to appear more emotional than they feel. The problem with fake emotion. Voluntary smiles use different muscles than involuntary ones. A genuine smile, the Duchenne smile, activates the orbicularis oculi, the muscle that circles the eye, producing crow's feet. A fake smile uses only the zygomatic major, the mouth muscle. The result, a smile that is in the mouth only. Observers cannot articulate the difference, but they feel it. A fake smile triggers the brain's anomaly detector. The listener does not think he's lying, they think something is off. That feeling is enough to trigger verification behavior. How to generate a Duchenne smile on command 1. Think of something that genuinely makes you happy, not the situation you are in, but a real memory. A child's laugh. A victory. A physical sensation you love too. Allow that feeling to flood your face. Do not make a smile. Let the smile happen. 3. Notice the eye contraction. The feeling must reach your eyes. With practice, you can access this memory and its facial expression in under 2 seconds. The smile will be real. The cause, your memory, is real. The context, you are smiling at the lowball offer, is the only false part, but the face does not know that. The emotional anchor technique. Create 5 emotional anchors, memories that reliably produce 5 different genuine expressions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and surprise. For each anchor, write a 1-sentence trigger. Examples: happiness, the moment my dog ran to me after I returned from a 3-week trip. Sadness, the last phone call with my grandfather before he died. Anger, walking into my apartment after it was burglarized. Fear, the sound of tires screeching behind me on the highway. Surprise, opening the envelope with my acceptance letter, which I did not expect. Before any high-stakes interaction where you need a specific emotion, close your eyes for 3 seconds and activate the anchor. Your face will generate the genuine expression automatically. Then open your eyes and deliver your line. This is not acting. This is channeling. And it is undetectable. Part 5. The neutral baseline, your home position. Every face has a resting expression. For most people, it is slightly tense, the result of living in a modern economy. This baseline tension registers as guardedness. Guarded people are assumed to be hiding something. The strategic neutral. Your goal is not to show nothing. Your goal is to show calm engagement. The strategic neutral expression consists of eyes, soft focus, not staring, eyelids, normal blink rate, 15 to 20 per minute, brows, relaxed, slightly raised, the interested position, mouth, slight curve, neither smile nor frown, jaw, unclenched, teeth slightly apart. Practice this expression for 5 minutes daily. It should become your default when you are not actively emoting. When you switch from strategic neutral to a generated emotion and back, the contrast will make the emotion seem more real, and the neutral will not trigger suspicion. The debrief after any interaction where you managed your facial expressions. Ask. 1. Did I detect any micro-expression leakage in myself? If yes, which emotion leaked, and did the listener respond to? Did I successfully mask, substitute, or generate? Which technique did I use, and did it feel automatic or forced? Forced is visible. Train more. 3. What micro-expressions did I see in my listener? Did any flash before a verbal response that surprised me? Write them down immediately after the interaction. Memory for micro-expressions fades within minutes. 4. Did my neutral baseline hold when I was not actively speaking? This is where most lies leak. During listening, not talking. 5. Is there a pattern to my leakage? Most people have one or two emotions that leak consistently. Fear and contempt are the most common. Identify yours and drill the substitution specifically. The emotional poker face is not about becoming a robot. It is about becoming a conscious communicator, one who chooses which emotions to show, which to hide, and which to generate from genuine internal sources. The goal is not to feel less. It is to express only what serves your strategic purpose. Chapter 5. The Memory Palace of Lies. Never contradict yourself. In 2006, a 53-year-old former KGB officer named Alexander Litvinenko lay dying in a London hospital, thallium poisoning destroying his bone marrow. British detectives sat at his bedside, desperate for the names of his assassins before he lost consciousness. Litvinenko, a master of tradecraft, gave them a single sentence. The men who came to my hotel room identified themselves as Andrei and Vladimir. They showed me FSB credentials. They offered me money to return to Moscow. 3 years later, when the detectives finally tracked down the hotel's security footage, they found something remarkable. Litvinenko had invented the entire encounter. The men did not exist. The hotel room visit never happened. But his description was so precise, down to the fake credential numbers, the time of day, and the brand of vodka one of the men drank, that investigators spent 30 months chasing ghosts. Why would a dying man lie? Because Litvinenko knew something the detectives did not. His real assassins were Russian state agents who would never be caught through conventional evidence. His false testimony, perfectly constructed and meticulously remembered, sent investigators down a harmless path while he took the real secret, the names he could never safely reveal, to his grave. Litvinenko's lie survived forensic scrutiny not because it was simple, but because it was architecturally sound. Every detail had a place. No detail contradicted another. And he had stored the entire structure in a memory system that allowed instant retrieval, even as his organs failed. This chapter teaches you that system. The problem of narrative load. Every lie requires memory. A simple lie requires remembering one fact you invented. A strategic lie, one that will survive multiple conversations with multiple people over weeks or months, requires remembering dozens or hundreds of facts, dates, names, locations, sequences, motivations, and emotional states. The human brain was not designed for this. Your memory is optimized for truth, for storing what actually happened, with all its messy inconsistencies, and for forgetting what proved irrelevant. When you try to store a false narrative alongside the true one, two things happen. 1. Interference. The true memory and the false memory compete for the same neural pathways. Over time, one corrupts the other. 2. Decay. Details you do not actively rehearse fade. But you cannot rehearse false details in front of others without revealing the lie. The result is a classic caught liar symptom: contradiction. Not because a liar is stupid, but because their memory failed at the worst possible moment. The solution is not to have a better natural memory. The solution is to offload the lie into an artificial memory structure, a cognitive framework that stores false information separately from true information, tags it for priority retrieval, and provides self-checking mechanisms to prevent contradiction. That framework is the memory palace. Part 1. What is a memory palace? The memory palace, also called the method of loci, is a mnemonic technique developed in ancient Greece, used by Roman orators to remember hours-long speeches, and refined by memory athletes who can now recall the order of 10 shuffled decks of cards. The technique is simple. You visualize a physical space you know intimately, your apartment, your childhood home, your office. You place pieces of information at specific locations within that space. To retrieve the information, you take a mental walk through the space, seeing each item in its place. For strategic deception, the memory palace serves a different purpose. You are not storing true information for later recall. You are storing false information in a way that isolated it from your true memories, reducing interference, creates strong visual and spatial anchors for each detail, reducing decay, allows rapid, silent retrieval. No one sees you thinking because you are simply looking at a room in your mind. Why this works for lies? The brain processes visual spatial information in a different region, the hippocampus and surrounding cortex, than it processes verbal semantic information, the temporal and frontal lobes. By translating your false narrative into images placed in a space, you move the lie out of the language centers where truth and falsehood compete, and into the spatial centers where competition is minimal. In practical terms, you will stop trying to remember the lie and start looking around your mental apartment. The difference is the difference between strain and ease. And ease is believable. Part 2. Building your deception palace. You will need one primary memory palace for active deceptions, lies you are currently maintaining. You may need secondary palaces for past deceptions you might need to reference later, or for particularly complex multi-person lies. Step 1. Choose your locus. Select a physical space you know so well that you could walk through it blindfolded. Your first apartment. Your childhood bedroom. The office layout from a job you held for years. The space should have at least 20 distinct loci, locations. For this chapter, we will use a standard one-bedroom apartment as our example. Front door, coat closet, entry table, living room couch, coffee table, TV stand, bookshelf, dining table, kitchen counter, refrigerator, stove, bathroom sink, bathroom mirror, shower, bedroom door, bed, nightstand, closet, window, desk. Step 2. Define your narrative spine. Every lie has a backbone, the central sequence of events that you will tell repeatedly. This spine should have 5-10 major beats. Each beat will become a locus in your palace. Example lie: you missed a client dinner because you had a family emergency. Spine. 1. Received a call from your sister, 7:15 p.m. 2. Her childcare fell through. Emergency 3. You left the office immediately 4. Drove to her apartment, 30 minutes 5. Watched her kids, ages 4 and 6, 6. Put them to bed, 9:30 p.m. 7. Returned home, 10:15 p.m. 7 beats. 7 loci. Step 3. Translate each beat into a vivid image. The brain remembers images, not words. For each beat, create a ridiculous, colorful, slightly absurd image that encodes the key details. Example: Beat 1. Front door, your sister's face pressed against the peephole, screaming into a toy phone shaped like a fire truck. Encodes: sister, call, urgency. Beat 2. Coat closet, a babysitter in a tuxedo falling into a pile of coats, calendar pages flying around her. Encodes: child care, falling through, time pressure. Beat 3. Entry table, your office desk melting into a puddle, your laptop swimming away like a fish. Encodes: left office immediately. Beat 4. Living room couch, your car turning into a rocket ship, the GPS reading sister's apartment 30 minutes. Encodes: drive, duration, destination. Beat 5. Coffee table, Two small children riding a golden retriever like a horse, one holding a juice box, the other wearing a motorcycle helmet. Encodes. Kids, ages roughly, chaos but affection. Beat 6. TV stand, a giant bedtime storybook opening, the letters 9:30 crawling across the page like ants. Encodes. Bedtime, time. Beat 7. Bookshelf, your bed floating on a cloud labeled home, with your slippers already tucked under the pillow. Encodes. Return home, time. Step 4. Walk the palace 3 times. Close your eyes. Start at the front door. See your sister screaming into the fire truck phone. Walk to the coat closet. See the tuxedoed babysitter falling. Continue through all 7 loci. Do this 3 times in a row, immediately after creating the images. Then do it once before sleep. Then once immediately upon waking. After 3 repetitions, the images will be anchored. Step 5. Retrieve on demand. When someone asks a question about the lie, do not remember verbally. Instead, mentally walk to the relevant locus and describe what you see. Question: what time did you leave the office? Do not think, I left at 7:15. This is verbal memory, prone to error. Instead, mentally walk to the entry table. See your melting desk, your swimming laptop. The image encodes urgency and immediacy. Then say, right after I got the call. Maybe 7:15, 7:20? It was a blur. The slight uncertainty, maybe 7:20, makes the memory feel real. Real memories have soft edges. Only rehearsed lies have perfect precision. Part 3. The contrastive palace for true events. Here is the advanced technique that separates masters from amateurs. Maintain a separate memory palace for the true version of events. When you are maintaining an active deception, you now have 2 narratives in your head, the false one, what you tell others, and the true one, what actually happened. If you store both in verbal memory, they will collide. Instead, store the true narrative in a different memory palace, perhaps your childhood home, your current office, or a friend's apartment you know well. In our example, false narrative palace, your own apartment, the lie about the family emergency. True narrative palace, your childhood bedroom, the actual events, you were at a bar with colleagues, lost track of time, and missed the dinner because you were drunk. When you are with a client, you walk through your apartment. When you are alone, or when you need to remember what actually happened, for tax purposes, for alibi purposes, for your own mental health, you walk through your childhood bedroom. The 2 palaces do not interfere because they use different visual spatial maps. Your brain treats them as separate environments, like knowing the layout of 2 different cities. You never confuse Paris with Tokyo. You will never confuse your lie with your truth. Part 4. Handling follow-up questions. The most dangerous moment for a liar is not the first telling. It is the follow-up question, days or weeks later, when the listener asks for a detail you did not anticipate. The amateur invents the detail on the spot. This is catastrophic. Spontaneous invention rarely coheres with the original lie, and the liar forgets the new detail by the next conversation. The strategist does something different. They reserve empty loci in the memory palace for exactly this purpose. Reserved loci. When you build your palace, leave 3 to 5 loci empty. For example, the bathroom mirror, the shower, the closet. Do not assign them images. They are blank spaces. When someone asks an unanticipated question, do not answer immediately. Take a breath, normal social pause. Mentally walk to an empty locus. Assign the new detail to that locus as a vivid image, right there in the moment. Then answer. Example: unanticipated question. What are your sister's kids' names? You did not encode names in the original palace. That is fine. Walk to the bathroom mirror, empty locus. Visualize the mirror cracking, and 2 names crawling out of the cracks like spiders, Lucas and Emma. Then answer, Lucas and Emma. Lucas is 4, he's the handful. Emma's 6, very sweet. The names are now anchored. In future conversations, when you walk your palace, you will pass the bathroom mirror, see the names, and recall them effortlessly. You will never contradict yourself because you have stored the invented detail in the same visual space as the rest of the lie. Part 5. The self-checking mechanism. The most sophisticated memory palace technique is the contradiction alarm, a built-in system that alerts you when a detail in your current story conflicts with a detail already stored. The red string method. In your palace, identify one locus that you will never use for narrative content. The bedroom window, for example. At this locus, visualize a red string tied in a loop. Every time you add a new detail to the palace, take a mental walk to the red string. Ask yourself, does this new detail contradict anything already in the palace? If the answer is yes, the red string visibly tightens in your imagination, a learned cue that means stop. Then you revise the new detail before it is spoken. You have just avoided a contradiction that would have caught you. The temporal anchor. One of the most common contradiction points is time. Liars often say I left at 7:15 in one conversation and I left around 7:30 in another. The listener may not notice consciously, but the discrepancy triggers the exception handler. To prevent this, anchor a specific clock or watch at one of your loci. In our example, place an analog clock on the coffee table with the kids. The clock shows exactly the time of the bedtime. 9:30. That clock is now your reference point for all temporal details. If someone asks what time did you get home, you walk to the clock, see 9:30, add the 30-minute drive, and answer around 10 o'clock, 10:15, every time, the same calculation, the same result. No variation. Part 6. Palace maintenance and retirement. A memory palace is not a set it and forget it tool. It requires maintenance. Weekly walkthrough. Once per week, for every active lie, walk through the entire palace. Do not rush. Spend 2 to 3 seconds at each locus, observing the image in full sensory detail. What does it smell like? What sounds are present? This rehearsal keeps the images vivid and prevents decay. The 6-month rule. No strategic lie should remain active for more than 6 months. After 6 months, one of 3 things should happen. 1. The lie has served its purpose and can be abandoned. You no longer need to maintain it. 2. The lie has become true through subsequent events. You retroactively stop lying because reality caught up. 3. The lie is now so embedded that it has replaced the truth in everyone's memory, including, ideally, your own, at which point you destroy the palace and truly forget. To retire a palace, perform a final walkthrough, thanking each image for its service. Then visualize the entire space filling with white fog. When the fog clears, the palace is empty. You will not be able to retrieve the lie easily after this, which is the point. Retired lies should stay retired. The debrief. After any interaction where you used your memory palace, ask 1. Did I retrieve from the palace, or did I just remember? If the latter, you are not using the system. Stop and rebuild. 2. Did any locus feel fuzzy or empty? Rehearse that image 3 times tonight. 3. Was I asked any question that required me to use an empty locus? If yes, did I successfully assign and retrieve the new detail? 4. Did the red string ever tighten during this conversation? If yes, what contradiction did you almost make, and did you successfully revise before speaking? 5. Am I maintaining separate palaces for truth and falsehood, or are they bleeding together? If you feel confused, walk through both palaces back to back. The confusion will resolve. Chapter 6. Misdirection and cognitive load. In 1953, a magician named Tommy Wonder walked onto a small stage in Amsterdam, rolled up his sleeves, and invited a committee of fellow magicians to inspect his hands, his table, and his single prop, a clear glass bowl. He placed the bowl on the table. He covered it with a silk handkerchief. He snapped his fingers. A live dove appeared inside the bowl. The committee searched him. They searched the table. They searched the bowl. They found nothing. He did it again. Same result. For 11 minutes, Tommy Wonder produced doves from an empty bowl while 7 of the world's most knowledgeable magicians watched from 3 feet away. At the end, he bowed and explained, "You were looking for the secret. But I never gave you time to look. I gave you questions to answer instead." What Tommy Wonder understood, and what every strategic deceiver must internalize, is that the human brain has a limited budget of attention. At any given moment, it can process only a small fraction of available information. The rest is filtered out, ignored, or never perceived at all. The amateur liar tries to hide the deception. The strategist does something more elegant. They flood the listener's cognitive budget with other tasks, leaving no processing power left for detection. This is misdirection, not concealment. Direction of attention away from the lie and toward something else, a question, an emotion, a detail, a task, a time pressure. By the time the listener looks back toward the deception, it has already passed, accepted, and filed away. The cognitive budget. Before learning misdirection techniques, you must understand the resource you are exploiting. The human brain has approximately 7 plus or minus 2 slots in working memory, the famous magical number 7, 50 milliseconds to shift attention from one focus to another, 2 to 3 seconds of uninterrupted processing before the mind seeks a new stimulus. When you speak to someone, their brain is constantly allocating these limited resources. Every decision to allocate attention to one thing is a decision not to allocate it to something else. Your goal as a strategic deceiver is to force the listener to spend their cognitive budget on comprehending a complex statement, answering a difficult question, managing an emotional reaction, tracking multiple streams of information, solving a puzzle you have presented. While they are busy with these tasks, the lie passes by unnoticed. Not because it is hidden, but because there was no attention left to notice it. The 3 types of cognitive load. 1. Intrinsic load, the inherent difficulty of the information itself. A complex sentence has higher intrinsic load than a simple one. 2. Extraneous load, distractions and unnecessary elements. A loud environment, multiple speakers, or visual clutter. 3. Germane load, the work of actually understanding and integrating information. This is the load you want the listener to experience, deep processing that consumes attention. The strategist increases intrinsic and germane load around the lie, while reducing extraneous load, so the listener does not become frustrated and disengage. The lie itself is delivered during peak load, then forgotten as the listener continues processing. Part 1. Temporal misdirection, the window of inattention. The simplest form of misdirection exploits a universal feature of human attention. After a moment of high cognitive load, there is a 1 to 2 second window of reduced vigilance. The peak end rule. Psychologists have known for decades that people judge experiences not by their average quality, but by 2 moments, the peak, most intense moment, and the end. Everything in between is compressed. Apply this to deception. Deliver the lie not at the beginning of a statement, where attention is high, and not at the end, where it is remembered, but in the middle of a complex sequence, immediately after a peak moment. Example, the peak end lie. You are explaining why our project is delayed. Peak moment, high emotion, high attention. I was furious when I saw the vendor's email. They had known about the supply chain issue for weeks and said nothing. Lie. Delivered during the cognitive recovery window. We flagged the risk in our internal meeting last Tuesday, but by then the timeline had already slipped by 5 days. End of statement. Low attention. Listener already moving on. Anyway, I've restructured the remaining milestones. Let me send you the updated chart. The listener experienced fury, peak, then heard the lie while still processing the emotion, then moved to the chart, end. The lie was perceived but not examined. It became background. The 2-second rule. After any emotional statement, question, or surprising fact, the listener's brain takes approximately 2 seconds to reorient. During these 2 seconds, you can say almost anything without triggering the exception handler, provided you say it fluently and move on without pause. Practice inserting one factual claim into every 2-second recovery window you observe. After a week, the timing will become automatic. Part 2. Load-based misdirection. Ask, don't tell. The most powerful misdirection technique is also the simplest. Ask a question. A question forces the listener's brain into retrieval mode. They search memory, construct an answer, evaluate its correctness, and prepare to speak. During this multi-step process, their attention is entirely internal, focused on their own knowledge, not on your words. While they are searching for an answer, You can deliver information that would otherwise be scrutinized. The question shield pattern 1. Ask a question that requires genuine thought, not yes no to. While they are thinking, 2 to 5 seconds, deliver your lie in a neutral, fluent sentence. 3. Before they finish thinking, add, but that's not the main point. What do you think about X? They never consciously register the lie. Their brain heard it, processed it as background, and filed it as true because there was no attention available to tag it as suspicious. Example, the salary negotiation. You want to imply you have another offer without stating it directly. Question shield. How does your typical equity package compare to the market for someone with my level of experience? While they think, I've been discussing a couple of external opportunities, just to benchmark my value, redirect, but I'm much more interested in whether there's flexibility on the signing bonus. What's your range? There the listener heard external opportunities. They did not have time to ask which opportunities or have you received an offer because their brain was still calculating equity comparisons. By the time they answer about the signing bonus, the implication is already accepted. The question catalog. Prepare 5 questions for each major deception. The questions should be relevant to the conversation, not random, require 3 to 10 seconds of thought, have no single correct answer, open-ended, lead naturally to your redirect. Examples. How do you think the board would react to a different approach? What's your sense of the team's capacity right now? If you were in my position, what would you prioritize? Part 3. Physical misdirection. The eyes follow the hand. Magicians have known for centuries what neuroscientists have only recently proven. The human visual system is wired to follow motion. When something moves, attention moves with it. When attention moves, everything outside the motion is briefly invisible. The gesture anchor. While you deliver a lie, make a small, deliberate gesture with your dominant hand, pointing at a document, gesturing toward a door, reaching for a glass of water. The listener's eyes, and therefore a portion of their attention, follow the motion. During the 200 to 300 milliseconds of the eye movement, the brain suppresses visual processing from the periphery. Your face, and any micro expressions that might leak, is in that periphery. They literally cannot see your face during the motion. Application. Practice timing your lie to coincide with the onset of a gesture. Say the critical false word as your hand begins to move. The gesture will capture attention, the word will be heard but not visually anchored, and the lie will pass. The object anchor. Place an object between you and the listener, a pen, a coffee cup, a phone. Move it slightly as you deliver the lie. The listener's attention will flicker to the object, then back to you. In that flicker, you have cover. The gaze anchor. Look directly at something in the room, a clock, a window, another person, for a half second longer than normal. The listener will follow your gaze. When they look away from your face, deliver the lie. By the time they look back, your face has reset to neutral. Part 4. Numerical misdirection, the distraction of precision. Numbers consume cognitive load out of proportion to their informational value. A single precise number, 47.3, 1205, $16,427, occupies as much attention as a full sentence of text. You can use this in 2 ways. The false precision shield. When you want to hide a lie, precede it with a precise number. The listener's brain will latch onto the number, processing its exactness, and will have less attention for what follows. Example, Q3 revenue came in at $4,372,018, just slightly under forecast. We're adjusting the guidance for next quarter, but the core business is solid. The number, $4,372,018, is real. The claim core business is solid might be the lie. But the listener is still mentally processing the number's precision. Why $18? What about the forecast? Is that good or bad? And has no attention left to question solid, the irrelevant calculation. Ask the listener to perform a simple calculation. While they calculate, deliver the lie. What's 15% of 320? Answer. 48. Takes 3 to 5 seconds. If we close this by Friday, how many working days does it leave for implementation? What would that bring our total commitment to? Roughly the calculation consumes germane load. The lie slips in during the calculation. By the time they answer, the lie is already filed. Part 5. Emotional misdirection, the amplify and slip. Emotion is the most expensive cognitive operation the brain performs. A person experiencing a strong emotion has almost no attention left for analytical tasks. The amplify and slip pattern 1. Identify an emotion the listener is already feeling: frustration with a vendor, excitement about a deal, worry about a deadline. 2. Amplify that emotion by agreeing with it, validating it, and describing it in vivid terms. 3. While they are experiencing the amplified emotion, deliver your lie. 4. Immediately return to the emotion, validating it further. Example: the angry client. Client: frustrated, this is the 3rd time your team has missed a deliverable. Amplify: you're right to be angry. I'd be furious in your position. We have let you down, and there's no excuse for the pattern. Client's anger intensifies and consumes all attention. Lie: delivered during peak anger. The project lead was out with a family emergency last week, which threw off the timeline. Return to emotion: but that's not your problem. Your problem is getting the work. So here's what I'm going to do personally. The client heard family emergency. They did not evaluate it. They were still angry. By the time they calmed down, the excuse was already accepted as fact. The sympathy shield. When a listener feels sympathy for you, their exception handler is nearly disabled. You can exploit this by displaying vulnerability immediately before a lie. I'm embarrassed to admit this. I don't usually share this, but this has been keeping me up at night. These phrases trigger sympathy. Then deliver the lie. The listener will be inclined to accept it because rejecting it would mean rejecting your vulnerability. Part 6. Multi-threading, managing 2 conversations at once. The highest form of misdirection is to conduct 2 parallel conversations, one verbal, the lie, and one non-verbal, a separate message that occupies the listener's attention. The nod and smile countermeasure. While you deliver a lie, nod your head slowly and maintain a slight, sympathetic smile. The listener's mirror neurons will cause them to nod back. Nodding is associated with agreement. The physical act of nodding reduces critical analysis. The problem-solving face. While you deliver a lie, furrow your brow slightly, tilt your head, and look at a point in space just above the listener's shoulder. Your face says, I am solving a difficult problem. The listener will unconsciously shift into collaborative mode, treating you as a teammate rather than a potential deceiver. The urgency mask. Check your watch or phone as you deliver the lie. Your body signals time pressure. The listener's brain interprets time pressure as no time for deep processing. Accept and move on. The debrief. After any interaction where you used misdirection, ask: 1. Did I successfully capture attention away from the lie? What specific technique did I use? Temporal, load-based, physical, numerical, emotional, or multi-threading? 2. How long did the listener take to respond after my lie? Shorter response times suggest they did not process it deeply. Longer response times suggest they are thinking, and may later remember the lie with suspicion. 3. Did the listener ask any follow-up question about the lie itself? If yes, your misdirection failed. Rehearse a stronger technique for next time. 4. Did I use misdirection too often in the same conversation? More than 3 misdirection attempts in 10 minutes becomes a pattern. Patterns get noticed. 5. Was the misdirection ethically appropriate to the situation? Misdirection is a tool. Using it on someone who trusts you deeply, about a matter that matters to them, crosses a line that damages relationships permanently. The amateur tries to hide the lie. The strategist tries to hide the listener's attention, directing it elsewhere, exhausting it with questions, consuming it with emotion, and slipping the lie through the gap between one thought and the next. You now have the tools to do this. Use them sparingly. Because the person who notices that their attention is being directed is the one person misdirection cannot fool. Someone who has read this chapter. Chapter 7. Negotiation leverage, the fake constraint. In 1997, a real estate developer named Harry Helmsley sat across from the owners of the Empire State Building. He wanted to buy it. They wanted $89 million. Helmsley offered $65 million. The owners refused. Helmsley stood up, thanked them for their time, and said, "I understand. Unfortunately, that's my final number. My investors have capped me at $65 million. I literally cannot offer a dollar more." The owners believed him. 3 weeks later, they accepted $65 million. What the owners did not know was that Helmsley was the investors. He had no cap. He could have offered $80 million easily. But he had invented a constraint, a fake limitation on his authority, his budget, or his timeline, and that invention had saved him $24 million. Helmsley understood a truth that most negotiators never learn: people do not argue with constraints. They argue with you. When you say "I won't pay more than $65 million, the other party pushes back. When you say "I cannot pay more than $65 million, they problem solve around your constraint, but they do not attack it. The fake constraint is the single most powerful tool in the strategic deceiver's negotiation arsenal. It shifts the conversation from persuasion to joint problem solving, while secretly protecting your true position. This chapter teaches you how to build, deploy, and defend fake constraints in any negotiation, business, personal, or professional. The psychology of constraints. Why do people accept fake constraints so easily? 3 reasons. 1. The authority heuristic. When you claim that a constraint comes from an external source, a boss, a board, a spouse, a bank, a legal requirement, the listener's brain categorizes it as structural rather than strategic. Structural constraints feel immutable. Strategic positions feel negotiable. By attributing your constraint to a third party, you make it psychologically harder to challenge too. The scarcity principle. People want what they cannot have. When you say "I can only offer X," you create artificial scarcity around your concession. The listener fears that pushing harder will cause you to withdraw the offer entirely, so they accept rather than risk losing what is on the table. 3. The cognitive ease of acceptance. Challenging a constraint requires work. The listener would need to verify your claim, assess its legitimacy, and develop a counterargument. Accepting it requires nothing. Given the choice between work and rest, most brains choose rest. Part 1. Types of fake constraints. Not all fake constraints are created equal. Different situations require different flavors of invented limitation. Type 1. The budget constraint. Claim, "My budget for this is $50,000. I literally cannot authorize a dollar more." Source, a fictional finance committee, a strict annual budget, a loan covenant, a partner's veto power. Most effective when the number is precise, not $50,000 but $51,247. Precision signals reality. The source is specific, not the budget but the Q3 capital expenditure limit set by the board in June. Type 2. The authority constraint. Claim, "I'd love to agree to that, but I need sign-off from regional management. And they don't meet again until Thursday." Source, a higher approval body, a slow-moving committee, an absent decision maker. Most effective when you express alignment with the listener, "I'd love to agree," while separating yourself from the constraint, but they are the problem. The listener allies with you against the absent authority. Type 3. The time constraint. Claim, "I need an answer by 5 p.m. Friday. After that, the funds get reallocated to another project." Source, a fiscal year end, a vendor deadline, a partner's travel schedule, a board meeting. Most effective when the deadline is specific and has consequences, not soon but Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. The consequence is external and impersonal, not "I will withdraw but the funds will be reallocated." Type 4. The legal and compliance constraint. Claim, "I'd love to structure it that way, but our general counsel says we cannot deviate from the standard terms." Source, legal department, compliance officer, regulatory requirement, insurance mandate. Most effective when the listener has no access to verify with your legal team. The constraint is phrased as protection for both parties, to keep us out of audit risk. Type 5. The relationship constraint. Claim, "I have to be careful here. My senior partner has been burned on deals like this before, so they're watching every move I make." Source: a suspicious boss, a protective spouse, a fragile internal coalition. Most effective when you position yourself as the listener's ally within a difficult system. Help me help you is the underlying message. Part 2. Building a believable fake constraint. A fake constraint fails when it feels invented. To feel real, it must have 4 elements. Element 1. Specificity without over-precision. Too vague, I have a budget limitation, feels like a tactic. Too precise, my budget is exactly $51,247.63, feels invented. Just right, I'm capped at $51,000. Actually, $51,200 if I stretch it. The finance committee set the number last month. The slight uncertainty, actually, $51,200 if I stretch it, signals that you are working within a real constraint, not inventing one from scratch. Element 2. A traceable source. Name the source of the constraint with enough detail that the listener could theoretically verify it, but practically cannot. The Q3 Capital Committee, that's our CFO, the head of FP&A, and the legal director, they approved the spend last month. My wife and I have an agreement, nothing over $5,000 without a joint conversation. And she's traveling this week. The partnership agreement requires unanimous consent for any deviation from the standard fee schedule. The listener now has names, titles, and contexts. They could check. They will not. But the option makes the constraint feel real. Element 3. Emotional texture. A real constraint comes with real emotion, frustration, resignation, slight embarrassment. The fake constraint must include the same. Honestly, it's embarrassing. I've been trying to get them to raise the cap for 3 weeks, but they are sticking to the original number. I hate operating this way. If it were up to me, we'd have a deal already. But my hands are tied. The emotion signals authenticity. A purely factual constraint, my budget is X, feels like a tactic. An emotional constraint, I'm frustrated, but my budget is X, feels like a confession. Element 4. A half-open door. The most believable fake constraint is not absolute. It has a tiny crack, a way it might bend. If the listener helps solve the problem, the only way I could get to a higher number is if we adjusted the payment terms. Net 90 instead of net 30 would free up cash flow on my end, unless you can document a compliance reason for the exception. I don't see how legal signs off. The half-open door does 2 things. It makes the constraint feel real. Real constraints have exceptions, and it directs the listener's energy toward the exception, not toward challenging the constraint itself. Part 3. Deploying the fake constraint. The moment of deployment is critical. Deliver the constraint incorrectly, and the listener will smell a tactic. Deliver it correctly, and they will accept it as reality. The 5 rules of deployment. 1. Deliver early, not late. Do not negotiate for 30 minutes and then introduce the constraint. That feels like a last-minute tactic. Introduce the constraint in the first 5 minutes, as part of your opening position. Before we go any further, I should tell you that I'm operating under a strict budget cap from my board. They've approved me up to $50,000. Anything beyond that, I'd need a new vote, which would take 2 weeks. Now the constraint is context, not a weapon. The listener negotiates within it from the start. 2. Deliver with resignation, not defiance. Defiant, I cannot go above $50,000. That's final. Challenges the listener to test you. Resigned, I wish I could offer more, but I'm capped at $50,000. It is what it is. Invites sympathy, not testing. 3. Do not apologize. Apology signals guilt. I'm sorry, but my budget is only $50,000 suggests you are hiding something. Instead, state the constraint as a fact of life, like gravity or traffic. The board approved me at $50,000. That's the number I have to work with. 4. Make the source the bad guy. If you express frustration at the constraint, the listener will ally with you against the source. This is powerful because now the listener is helping you work around the constraint, rather than fighting you. Look, between us, I think the board is being too conservative. But I have to play by their rules. Help me figure out how to make $50,000 work for you. 5. Then shut up. After delivering the constraint, stop talking. The silence forces the listener to respond. Amateur negotiators immediately soften the constraint, but maybe I could find a little more. This destroys credibility. Deliver. Then wait. Part 4. Defending the fake constraint against challenge. Sometimes the listener pushes back. They ask to speak to the source. They demand documentation. They accuse you of inventing the constraint. You need defenses. Against let me talk to your boss board spouse. I'd love to connect you, but they've asked me to handle negotiations directly. Going over my head would actually hurt my credibility internally. They'd see it as me not being able to manage the conversation. This reframes the request as something that would harm the listener's interests by undermining your internal standing. The listener backs off. Against show me the budget. Approval. Document. I'm happy to share the redacted version after we have a term sheet. But right now, that's internal financial information I can't circulate without a non-disclosure and a serious commitment from your side. You have not refused. You have added conditions. The listener will almost never meet the conditions just to verify a constraint they already half believe. Against I think you're making this up. Do not get defensive. Do not confess. Instead, pivot to the half-open door. I understand why you'd think that. It's a frustrating number. Let me ask you, if the constraint is real, what would you need to see from me to make $50,000 work? Because I want to find a solution, even within the limit. You have acknowledged their suspicion without confirming it, and redirected to problem solving. Most listeners will accept the pivot. Part 5. The multi-layer fake constraint. Advanced practitioners use nested constraints, a constraint within a constraint. Example, Layer 1, my budget is $50,000, fake. Layer 2, but even that $50,000 is contingent on board approval by Friday, fake, nested. Layer 3, and the board won't approve unless we have a signed LOI from your side first, fake, nested again. Each layer makes the previous layer feel more real. By the time you reach layer 3, the listener is no longer thinking about whether the constraint exists. They are thinking about how to meet its conditions. The escalation pattern. 1. Introduce the primary constraint. 2. When the listener accepts it, introduce a secondary constraint that makes the first one more specific. 3. When the listener accepts that, introduce a tertiary constraint that creates urgency. Each acceptance builds momentum. By the third layer, the listener is psychologically committed to working within your fictional framework. Part 6. The ethical boundary of the fake constraint. The fake constraint is a lie. But it is a lie of a specific type. It misrepresents your limitations, not your intentions. You are not promising something you cannot deliver. You are claiming an inability you do not actually have. Is this ethical? In competitive negotiation, where both parties understand that each is presenting a strategic position, not a confession of truth, most practitioners say yes. In personal relationships, where trust is the currency, the fake constraint is dangerous. The bright line: do not use a fake constraint with a spouse, a child, a close friend, or a long-term business partner who expects transparency. The damage to trust will exceed any tactical gain. Do use fake constraints with one-off vendors, adversarial negotiators, competitors, parties who are themselves using tactical positions. And always remember, a fake constraint is only useful if you never admit it was fake. Once you are caught, the technique is burned for you personally, and possibly for the entire concept of constraints in that relationship. The debrief. After any negotiation where you deployed a fake constraint, ask: 1. Did the listener accept the constraint without challenge? If yes, which element, specificity, source, emotion, half-open door, seemed most effective too? If the listener challenged the constraint, which defense did I use, and did it work? If not, rehearse a different defense for next time. 3. Did I accidentally reveal that the constraint was fake? A slip like, well, maybe I could find another $5,000 destroys credibility. If you said this, the constraint is now useless. 4. Was the constraint necessary? Sometimes the truth, I'm choosing not to pay more than $50,000, is more powerful than a fake constraint. Honest positions have their own strength. 5. Would I be comfortable if the listener discovered the constraint was fake after the deal closed? If the answer is no, you are in the wrong relationship for this technique. Do not use it again with that person. Use the fake constraint where it belongs, in competitive bargaining, against counterparties who are doing the same to you. Defend it skillfully. Retire it after the deal closes. And never, ever forget that the most powerful constraint is sometimes the truth. I will not pay more than that because I have decided not to. That is not a lie. That is a spine. Chapter 8. Reputation Warfare, Managing What Isn't Said. In 2008, a relatively unknown technology executive named Eric Schmidt attended a small dinner party in Atherton, California. Across the table sat a venture capitalist who had just passed on funding Schmidt's new project. The VC, feeling generous with advice, said, "Eric, you're brilliant, but you have a reputation for being difficult to work with. You might want to soften that." Schmidt smiled, nodded, and said nothing. Over the next 6 months, 3 things happened. First, the VC's largest portfolio company lost a critical hire to a competitor. Second, a journalist writing a profile of that competitor received an anonymous tip about the VC's pattern of making personal attacks during professional negotiations. Third, the VC found himself excluded from 2 major deal syndicates he had previously led. None of these events could be traced to Schmidt. None involved a single false statement. And yet, by the time the 6 months ended, the VC's reputation had shifted from tough but fair to toxic, and Schmidt's project raised $40 million from a different firm. Schmidt understood what most people never learn: reputation is not what you say about yourself. It is what others believe about you. And beliefs can be managed without ever uttering a direct falsehood. This chapter is about reputation warfare, the strategic management of what is not said, what is implied by third parties, and what is allowed to be believed without confirmation. It is the domain of strategic deception at its most sophisticated, and its most deniable. The 3 channels of reputation. Before you can manage a reputation, yours or someone else's, you must understand how reputation actually forms. Most people believe reputation is the sum of direct experiences. This is wrong. Direct experience accounts for less than 30% of any reputation. The remaining 70% comes from 3 indirect channels. Channel 1, observed behavior, 40%. What people see you do with their own eyes. This is the hardest channel to manipulate because it requires staging real events. But it is also the most credible. Channel 2, reported behavior, 35%. What people hear about you from others. This channel is the easiest to manipulate because it requires only conversations, and conversations can be shaped, seeded, and influenced without lying. Channel 3, inferred behavior, 25%. What people assume about you based on your associations, your environment, your silence, and your apparent reputation. This channel operates entirely in the listener's imagination, which makes it the most powerful channel for strategic deception. The master of reputation warfare focuses on channels 2 and 3. Channel 2 is where you plant seeds. Channel 3 is where those seeds grow into beliefs without any further intervention from you. Part 1. The strategic leak, information as a weapon. A strategic leak is the deliberate release of true, or true enough, information through an apparently accidental or anonymous channel. The goal is not to inform. The goal is to shape belief without taking authorship. The rules of the strategic leak. 1. The information must be deniably sourced. If you can be traced to the leak, you have not leaked, you have confessed to. The information must be plausible without you. The listener must believe they discovered it, or heard it from a neutral party. 3. The information should be 80% true. A completely false leak is a bomb that will eventually explode in your face. An 80% true leak is a surgery, precise, limited, and healable. 4. The leak must serve a specific strategic purpose. Never leak just to see what happens. Leaks are tools, not toys. The 3 leak channels. The concerned third party. You ask a mutual acquaintance to mention something to the target in casual conversation. The acquaintance does not know they are carrying a leak. They think they are sharing gossip. Your fingerprints are nowhere. the anonymous platform, a Glassdoor review, a Reddit post, a blind item in an industry newsletter, an off-the-record conversation with a journalist who does not name sources. The platform itself provides cover. The visible whisper. You say something quietly in a setting where you know you will be overheard. I probably shouldn't say this, but I heard that the Smith account is having serious issues. The overhearer believes they have discovered your secret. They will spread it as fact. Example, lowering a competitor's standing without defamation. You are competing for a contract. Your competitor is reputable but has a hidden weakness, high turnover in their implementation team. Do not say, competitor X has high turnover, slander. Traceable. Risky. Instead, leak through a concerned third party. Ask a former employee of that competitor, who owes you a favor, to mention at an industry happy hour, I loved working at competitor X, but man, the implementation team was a revolving door. I was the fourth person on my account in 18 months. The leak is true, the former employee's experience. It is deniable, you are not the speaker. And it will reach the potential client through the industry grapevine within 2 weeks, without a single word from you. Part 2, the strategic silence, what you do not deny. Silence is not absence. Silence is a statement. And in reputation warfare, what you allow to be believed is often more powerful than what you assert. The principle of tacit acceptance. If someone says something about you, true or false, and you do not deny it, most listeners will assume the statement is accurate. Your silence is interpreted as confirmation. This is a vulnerability if you are the target of a leak. It is a weapon if you are the leaker. Deploying silence as a weapon. Step 1. Allow a rumor about you to circulate. You do not start it. You just do not kill it. Step 2. When asked directly, respond with strategic ambiguity. See chapter 3. I've heard that rumor. I'm not going to comment on it. Step 3. The listener interprets your non-denial as confirmation. The rumor becomes fact. Example, the fake offer. You want your current employer to think you have another offer. You do not say you have one. You do not forge a letter. You simply do not deny the rumor when a colleague says, I heard you were talking to Acme Corporation. Your response, I'm not going to discuss my conversations with other companies. I think we should focus on the work here. You have confirmed nothing. You have denied nothing. And your employer will now operate as if the offer is real. The danger of silence. Silence works only when the listener already wants to believe the rumor. If the listener is skeptical, your silence will be interpreted as evasion, which triggers suspicion. Know your audience before deploying strategic silence. Part 3. The Phantom Coalition, Reputation by Association. Humans judge individuals partly by the company they keep. You can leverage this by creating the appearance of relationships that do not exist, or by concealing relationships that do. The Phantom Introduction. You want to be perceived as connected to a powerful person. You do not need an actual introduction. You need only for the target to believe the connection exists. Arrange to be seen in the same context as the powerful person. A conference. A charity event. A building lobby. Do not approach them. Simply be visible in their orbit. When the target asks, do you know, powerful person answer, we've crossed paths a few times. Great person, this is true, you have crossed paths, you saw them across a room. It implies a relationship. The target fills in the rest. The Phantom Endorsement. You want to be perceived as endorsed by an authority. Do not forge a letter. Instead, arrange for a third party to say, I heard, authority, speak highly of your work. The third party may be lying. You may have asked them to lie. But the statement is hearsay, not attributable to the authority. If challenged, the third party says, maybe I misremembered. I thought I heard that. Deniability maintained. Reputation enhanced. The Phantom Client. You want to appear to have worked with prestigious clients. Do not lie about past work. Instead, ensure that your marketing materials list clients include organizations in the Fortune 500 space. Technically true, you once sold a $500 product to an employee of a Fortune 500 company. The reader assumes a consulting relationship. You never said that. Part 4. The counter leak, defending against reputation attack. When someone targets your reputation, your instinct will be to defend directly, deny, explain, sue for defamation. This is almost always a mistake. Direct defense validates the attack. It signals that the accusation landed. The 3 principles of counter leak. 1. Do not address the accusation. Addressing it gives it oxygen. You are now talking about their frame, not yours. 2. Change the subject to your strengths. The human brain can hold only so much negative information. Flood it with positive information about yourself. 3. Leak a counter narrative about the attacker. The best defense is a good offense, not because you retaliate, but because you rebalance the reputational ledger. The counter leak in practice. Someone spreads a rumor that you missed a critical deadline. True, you did, but for good reason. Do not send an email explaining the reasons. Now everyone is discussing the missed deadline. Instead, leak through a third party. I heard that attacker has been under a lot of pressure lately. Their team has been missing targets, and apparently they're looking for someone to blame. Now the conversation shifts from your missed deadline to the attacker's credibility. You have not denied the rumor. You have simply introduced a competing frame. Most listeners will hold both pieces of information and conclude, this is office politics. I don't know who to believe. Neutrality is victory when you are under attack. The inoculation leak. Before an expected attack, pre-leak information that makes the attack seem predictable and therefore less credible. Example, you know a former employee is going to accuse you of mismanagement. Before the accusation surfaces, mention to trusted colleagues, I had to let someone go last month, and they took it hard. I wouldn't be surprised if they said some things about me. It's unfortunate, but I understand they're hurting. When the accusation arrives, your colleagues think, he predicted this. It's just a disgruntled ex-employee. The attack is neutralized before it lands. Part 5. The ghost narrative. Creating a reputation from nothing. Sometimes you need to build a reputation from scratch, for yourself, for a project, for a company. The fastest way is not through advertising or self-promotion. It is through a ghost narrative, a story about you that is told by others, in your absence, without your prompting. Building the ghost narrative. Step 1. Identify the reputation trait you need, for example, ruthless in negotiations, generous with credit, technically brilliant but socially awkward. Step 2. Perform one visible act that embodies that trait, for example, walk away from a small deal to prove you are ruthless, publicly thank a junior employee to prove you are generous, solve a technical problem in a meeting to prove brilliance. Step 3. Ensure that act is witnessed by someone who talks, a recruiter, a journalist, a well-connected investor, a notorious gossip. Step 4. Do nothing else. The witness will spread the story. Each retelling will embellish slightly. Within 6 months, the story will be unrecognizable as the original act, but the reputation will be solid. The one-act principle. You do not need to be ruthless in every negotiation. You need to be seen as ruthless in one negotiation that everyone hears about. The human brain generalizes from a single vivid example. Use this to your advantage. The planted story. For higher stakes reputation building, plant a story directly with a journalist or podcaster who covers your industry. Do not ask them to write about you. Instead, offer yourself as a source for a story about someone else, and mention your own reputation trait as context. The reason I understand this pattern is that I've been in that position myself. I'm known for walking away from deals that don't meet my terms. It's cost me money in the short term, but it's built a brand. The journalist now knows your reputation. When they write about you in the future, and they will, if you are useful to them, they will use that framing. The reputation becomes external, third party, and apparently objective. Part 6. The defensive audit, knowing your own vulnerabilities. You cannot defend a reputation if you do not know where it is weak. Perform a defensive audit quarterly. The audit questions 1. What is the single most damaging true thing someone could say about me? Identify it. Plan for it. Have a counter leak ready. 2. What is the single most damaging false thing someone could plausibly say about me? Inoculate against it by mentioning it first, as a hypothetical. 3. Who has incentive to damage my reputation? List them. Monitor them. Consider preemptively neutralizing them through kindness, distance, or strategic leaks about their vulnerabilities. 4. What reputation do I want to have in 12 months? Work backward. Identify the 3 acts that will create that reputation. Perform them where they will be seen by talkers. 5. What reputation do I actually have today? Ask 3 honest friends. Compare their answers. The gap between current and desired is your strategic priority. The debrief. After any reputation management effort, offensive or defensive, ask 1. Did I achieve the reputational shift I wanted? How do I know? Measurable evidence. A conversation you were not part of, a decision made in your favor, an invitation you would not have received before. 2. Were any of my leaks traced back to me? If yes, your deniability failed. Change your leak channels immediately. 3. Did I cross the line from reputation management to defamation? Defamation is false and damaging. If you leaked something false, stop. The legal and relational risks are catastrophic. 4. Did I spend more energy managing reputation than building substance? A hollow reputation collapses. Ensure you have real accomplishments behind the ghost narrative. 5. Would I be comfortable with every reputation move I made appearing on the front page of tomorrow's newspaper? If not, you are playing a game that will eventually destroy you. Reputation warfare is a tool, not an identity. Chapter 9. The exit lie, quitting, firing, and ghosting with grace. In 2014, a senior vice president at a Fortune 500 company named Diana walked into her boss's office and resigned. She gave the standard reasons: a new opportunity I can't refuse, gratitude for everything I've learned here, bittersweet but excited for the future. Her boss wished her well. HR processed her exit. She received a glowing letter of recommendation. What Diana's boss did not know, and would never learn, was that she was leaving because her boss had been sexually harassing her for 2 years. She had no proof. No witnesses. No paper trail. If she had told the truth, the company would have investigated, found nothing conclusive, and her reputation would have been destroyed by counter-accusations. Instead, she lied perfectly, escaped cleanly, and now runs a division at a competitor. Diana understood something that most exit guides get wrong. The truth is not always the best policy when leaving. Sometimes the best exit is a beautiful lie that protects everyone, especially you. This chapter is about the strategic exit: quitting a job, firing an employee, ending a contract, leaving a relationship, or ghosting a social obligation. In each case, the truth may be destructive, the lie may be kind, and the skill lies in knowing the difference, and executing the lie without detection or regret. Why exit lies are different. Exits are high-risk moments for deception because 1. Emotions are heightened. Fear, anger, relief, and guilt all increase leakage. See chapter 4:2. People pay attention. An exit is an event. Events are remembered. Your words will be scrutinized more closely than routine conversation. 3. The relationship ends. After an exit, you will not have ongoing opportunities to correct misunderstandings or repair damage. 4. References and reputations follow you. Your exit lie may become the foundation of your future professional narrative. The stakes are high. The margin for error is 0. And the cost of failure, a burned bridge, a bad reference, a reputation for dishonesty, can last decades. Part 1. The job exit. Quitting without burning bridges. You are leaving a job. You have reasons: a toxic boss, low pay, boredom, a better offer, ethical concerns, personal issues, or simple burnout. You cannot say most of these things without damage. The 3 rules of the job exit lie. 1. Never criticize. Even justified criticism will be remembered as bitterness, not truth. The person hearing your exit will never be objective about your complaints. 2. Never over-explain. The more reasons you give, the more opportunities for the listener to find one that seems false. One clear, simple reason is enough. 3. Always express gratitude. Even if you hate the place. Gratitude signals emotional closure, which signals that you are not a threat. The standard exit lie template. I've really appreciated my time here. I've learned so much from specific person or project. I've been offered an opportunity that's too aligned with my long-term goals to pass up. It's bittersweet, but I'm excited for what's next, and I'll always be grateful for what you and the team have given me. This statement contains gratitude, genuine or performed, a specific positive detail, credible, a vague opportunity, unverifiable, emotional closure, bittersweet. No criticism. No over-explanation. No truth about why you are actually leaving. The counter-offer defense. If your employer counters with more money, you need a lie that closes the door without negotiation. I really appreciate the offer. But this isn't about money. The new role is in a different direction, more strategic, creative, technical, and I've already committed. I wouldn't feel right going back on my word. The lie is that it is not about money. It might be entirely about money. But the frame, integrity, I wouldn't feel right, is unassailable. No employer can argue with "I gave my word." The exit interview landmine. HR will ask, "Why are you really leaving?" Do not fall for this. HR does not want the truth. HR wants to protect the company from liability. Your truth, toxic boss, harassment, unfair pay, is a liability. If you tell it, you will be labeled a complainer, and your reference will suffer. The exit interview lie. Everything has been fine. I just found an opportunity that's a better fit for this stage of my career. I have no complaints. Say this even if you have 73 complaints. Say it with a smile. Walk out. Never look back. Part 2. The firing lie. Letting someone go without warfare. You are the manager. You need to fire someone. The truth, your work is substandard. We don't like you. You're too expensive. Will provoke anger, tears, appeals, legal threats, or worse. The strategic termination lie. The goal is not to deceive the employee forever. They will eventually figure it out. The goal is to get them out the door peacefully, with minimal drama, and with no retaliation. The restructuring frame. This is not about your performance. We're restructuring the department, and unfortunately, your role is being eliminated. We've made the difficult decision to go in a different direction. This is a lie if the role is not being eliminated. But it is a useful lie because it externalizes the decision. The employee cannot argue with restructuring. They cannot demand a second chance. They simply pack their box and leave. The bad fit frame. You're a talented person, and you've contributed a lot. But we've come to believe that this role isn't the right fit for your skills. We'd like to help you find a place where you can really thrive. This is a lie if the employee is simply bad at their job. But it is a kind lie because it preserves their self-esteem. And self-esteem preservation is the single most effective tactic for preventing lawsuits and bad Glassdoor reviews. The "we're going in a new direction" evergreen. This phrase works in almost every termination context. It is vague enough to be true. Every company is always going in a new direction. It is final enough to end discussion. And it attributes the decision to the impersonal organization, not to you personally. What never to say when firing. This is personal. It will become a lawsuit. You're just not good enough. Cruel and provocative. I'm sorry. Apology implies wrongdoing. You are not wrong to fire someone who needs to be fired. Do not apologize. The actual reason, just don't. Part 3. The contract exit. Walking away from clients and partners. You need to end a business relationship. The truth, you're a nightmare. You don't pay on time. I found someone better. Will guarantee bad word of mouth. The capacity lie. We've had to make some hard decisions about capacity. To serve our existing clients at the level they deserve, we're pausing new work and scaling back on a few existing relationships, unfortunately including ours. I want to thank you for the opportunity to work together. This lie works because capacity constraints are plausible. Every business has them. External, not the client's fault. And final, you cannot argue with "we're too busy." The strategic pivot lie. We're pivoting our business focus toward new area. Your work doesn't fit that new direction, so we've made the difficult decision to transition you to another provider. Here are 3 recommendations. This lie works because pivots happen, the client is not blamed, and you provide a solution, referrals, that softens the blow. The fee increases exit. Sometimes the cleanest exit is not an exit at all, it is a price so high that the client leaves on their own. We've reviewed our pricing and effective next quarter, your rate will be increasing to number 50% higher than market. We wanted to give you plenty of notice to decide what works best for you. If the client accepts the increase, you now have a profitable pain in the neck. If they leave, as you expected, you have exited without firing them. They chose to leave. No bad blood. Part 4. The relationship exit. Breaking up without breaking down. Personal relationships are the most dangerous exit territory because the emotional stakes are highest and the social consequences are longest. The "it's not you, it's me why it works" this cliché is a cliché because it works. It externalizes the decision to your own needs or issues and avoids blame. The truth, "I'm not attracted to you anymore, you're boring, I found someone else," is destructive. The lie is kind. The script, "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I've realized that I'm not in a place to be the partner you deserve." You haven't done anything wrong. This is about me and where I am right now. Is it a lie? Probably. Most relationship endings are about the other person at least partly. But the lie preserves the departing person's dignity and the departed person's self-worth. That is a net ethical positive. The gradual fade, aka ghosting with guilt. Sometimes a direct exit conversation is more cruel than silence. If the relationship is casual, new, or already dying, the strategic lie is to fade gradually, respond more slowly to texts, be busy with work for 2 weeks, decline 3 invitations with genuine sounding regrets, then stop initiating contact entirely. If the other person reaches out to ask "are we still friends?" you owe them an honest conversation. But if they also fade, you have executed a mutual ghost, which is not a lie at all, but a social contract ending by silent agreement. The social obligation exit. You are invited to an event you do not want to attend. The truth, "I don't want to come," is hurtful. The lie is kind. Standard social exit lies, all acceptable, all expected. "I'm so sorry, something came up, I'm not feeling well." Rain check, "I have a conflict at night, I'd love to, but I'm completely booked." These are not even lies in the strategic deception sense. They are social lubricants, accepted fictions that allow everyone to save face. Use them freely. Part 5. The permanent exit, disappearing cleanly. Sometimes you need to exit so completely that you are never found. This is rare. Abusive relationships, witness protection, severe debt avoidance, but the principles apply to less extreme versions, leaving a toxic industry, cutting off a stalker, or simply wanting to start over. The clean break protocol. 1. Tie off loose ends. Pay debts. Return borrowed items. Fulfill obligations. A trail of unfinished business is a trail back to you too. Create a forwarding narrative. Tell the people you are leaving that you are going somewhere else, a different city, a different industry, a different country. Go somewhere else. The lie becomes truth. 3. Sever digital ties. New email. New phone number. New social media, or none. Old accounts deactivated, not deleted. Deletion draws attention. Deactivation is quiet. 4. Change your patterns. Do not eat at the same restaurants. Do not shop at the same stores. Do not use the same dry cleaner. Habits leave trails. 5. Tell one person the truth. Someone needs to know where you are in case of emergency. Choose carefully. That person becomes your only link to the past. The new opportunity cover story. For everyone who asks where you went, the answer is the same. I had an opportunity I couldn't pass up. It's been great, but I'm focused on the future now. This works for former colleagues, distant family, and anyone else who does not need to know the truth, which is, you left because you were miserable, in danger, or simply done. Part 6. The ethical accounting of exit lies. Exit lies are different from other strategic deceptions because the relationship is ending. You will not live with the consequences of the lie, but the other person will live with the consequences of the truth. The ethical matrix. Ask 3 questions before any exit lie. 1. Does the truth serve anyone's interest? If no, the lie is ethically neutral or positive. 2. Will the lie cause future harm? If the person will rely on your lie to make future decisions. For example, my former boss said I was great at X when you were not. That is harmful. 3. Is there a way to exit without lying at all? A simple "I've decided to move on" is not a lie. It is a statement of fact. Prefer this when possible. The bright line. Never lie in an exit if the other person has a right to the truth. A spouse has a right to know why you are leaving a marriage. A business partner has a right to know if you are taking intellectual property. An employee has a right to know if you are firing them for cause, so they can improve. Outside of these duty of truth relationships, exit lies are not only permissible, they are often the kindest choice. The debrief. After any exit where you deployed a strategic lie, ask. 1. Did the exit achieve my goals without collateral damage, anger, tears, appeals, legal threats, bad references? If any of these occurred, your exit lie failed. 2. Could I have exited with silence instead of a lie? Sometimes the best exit is no exit conversation at all, simply stopping, fading, or resigning by email. Silence is not deception. 3. Did I leave the other person with a false belief that will harm them? If they believe I was great at that job when they were terrible, you have set them up for failure elsewhere. That is unethical. 4. Did I protect my own reference and reputation? The test. If the person you lied to were called for a reference tomorrow, what would they say? If the answer is something positive or neutral, your exit lie succeeded. 5. Is there any chance the lie will be discovered? If yes, a shared social circle, a future workplace interaction, a paper trail, you need a cover story for the discovery, or you should have told a different lie. Choose the lie. Exits cleanly. And spend your freedom well. Chapter 10. Social fluency, flattery, white lies, and protective deception. In 1965, a young psychologist named Robert Rosenthal walked into an elementary school in San Francisco and told the teachers something remarkable. He had developed a new test, he explained, that could identify late bloomers, children who were about to experience a dramatic intellectual growth spurt. He gave them a list of 20% of their students, randomly selected, and said these were the bloomers. 8 months later, Rosenthal returned and tested every child. The bloomers, the randomly selected 20%, had gained an average of 12 IQ points more than their peers. The teachers had not given them extra lessons or special materials. They had simply believed the children were about to bloom, and that belief had changed how they looked at them, spoke to them, and expected of them. Rosenthal's experiment is now famous as the Pygmalion effect. Expectations become reality. But here is what most people miss: the teachers were deceived. There were no bloomers. The test was fake. And yet, the deception produced real good, not just for the children, higher IQ, but for the teachers, satisfaction, the school, better outcomes, and society, more capable students. This is protective deception, lies told not for selfish advantage, but to create a better reality for everyone involved. They are the grease of social life, the glue of families, and the secret ingredient in every functional relationship that has lasted longer than 6 months. This chapter is about those lies. Not the strategic deceptions of the boardroom, but the daily, necessary, beautiful lies that make human life tolerable. You already tell them. This chapter will teach you to tell them well. The taxonomy of protective lies. Not all protective lies are equal. Some serve the liar. Some serve the listener. Some serve the relationship. Understanding the difference is the first step to fluency. Type 1. The affirmation lie. Purpose: to make someone feel seen, valued, or loved. Example: you're the best parent a kid could ask for, said by a child who has complicated feelings but wants to give a gift. Ethics: positive. The truth would be withholding, not helpful. Type 2. The comfort lie. Purpose: to reduce suffering in the moment. Example: the dog didn't feel a thing. It was very peaceful, said after a pet is hit by a car. Ethics: strongly positive. The truth would be cruelty. Type 3. The social lubricant lie. Purpose: to avoid unnecessary friction. Example, I'd love to, but I have a conflict, said when you simply don't want to attend. Ethics, neutral to positive. The truth, I don't want to come, would harm the relationship without benefit. Type 4, the protective shield lie. Purpose, to prevent someone from being hurt by information they cannot handle. Example, your father and I are working through some things, but we're fine, said to a child during a marital crisis. Ethics, context dependent. Necessary for children, patronizing for adults. Type 5, the motivational lie. Purpose, to inspire someone to achieve more than they believe possible. Example, you have a real gift for this, said to a struggling student who needs confidence more than accuracy. Ethics, positive, provided the lie does not set them up for failure in a high-stakes context. Part 1, the art of strategic flattery. Flattery is the most common protective lie. It is also the most frequently botched. Bad flattery, generic, transparent, excessive, damages relationships. Good flattery, specific, credible, proportionate, deepens them. The specificity rule. Generic, you're so smart, means nothing. Feels like a reflex. Strategic, the way you handled that call with the angry client, the way you let them vent, then reframed the problem, that was really skilled. I'm going to use that. The second version names a specific behavior, explains why it worked, and includes a self-reference. I'm going to use that. That signals sincerity. It is a lie if you do not actually admire the behavior. But it is a useful lie if it encourages more of that behavior. The credibility rule. Flattery must be plausible. Telling an average singer they are the next Adele destroys your credibility. Telling them you have a really pleasant tone in your mid-range, even if not entirely true, is plausible and therefore effective. The dosage rule. Too little flattery, relationships feel cold. Too much, relationships feel manipulative. The correct dosage is one specific, credible piece of flattery per significant interaction, weekly for colleagues, daily for partners, hourly for children under 7. The flattery truth sandwich. For constructive feedback, surround criticism with flattery. You have a real instinct for structure. Flattery may be exaggerated. This section needs to be reorganized. The logic jumps here. Truth, but your core argument is solid. With better flow, this could be excellent. Flattery. The flattery does not negate the truth. It makes the truth bearable. Part 2, the comfort lie, when kindness requires falsehood. You are at a hospital bedside. A friend has just received bad news. They ask, am I going to be okay? The truth, you don't know. The statistics are grim. But saying I don't know, and it doesn't look good is not helpful. It is devastating. The comfort lie, you're in the best place. The doctors are excellent. And I'm going to be here every step of the way. Focus on today, we'll handle tomorrow together. Every element of this statement may be questionable. Are the doctors excellent? Can you actually be there every step? But the statement's function is not accuracy. Its function is stabilization. A terrified person needs to feel held, not informed. The 4 principles of the comfort lie. 1. Do not promise specific outcomes. You will definitely recover is a lie that will be remembered and resented if false. People recover from this every day is true, some do, and comforting too. Focus on the present, not the future. Right now, you're safe. Right now, I'm here, the present is knowable. The future is not 3. Use we not you, we'll get through this shares the burden. You'll get through this isolates them. 4. Never lie about something that affects medical decisions. If they ask did the doctor say it was stage 4 and the answer is yes, you must say yes. Comfort lies cannot cross into medical deception. The terminal illness exception. When someone is dying and asks am I dying, the ethical answer is the truth, but delivered with compassion. The lie, you'll be fine, robs them of the chance to say goodbye, settle affairs, and find closure. Comfort lies are for the living. The dying deserve truth. Part 3, the social lubricant lie, navigating obligations. Every culture has its accepted fictions. In America, we should have lunch sometime. Translation, I like you well enough but will never schedule this lunch. In Britain, I'm fine, thanks. Translation, I am actively not fine, but discussing it would be rude. In Japan, it's difficult. Translation, no, these are not lies in the moral sense. They are conventions, shared understandings that everyone agrees to pretend are true. Violating them is not honesty, it is rudeness. The invitation escape. You are invited to something you do not want to attend. Your options, truth, I don't want to come, relationship damaging, accepted fiction, I'm so sorry, something has come up, relationship preserving. The accepted fiction works because everyone uses it. The host knows you might be lying. They do not care. They needed a polite no, not a genuine yes. The opinion dodge. Someone asks for your opinion on something you dislike, their cooking, their outfit, their project. The truth would hurt. The accepted fiction is a redirect. That's an interesting choice. Says nothing about quality. I've never seen anything quite like it. True and neutral. The important thing is that you love it. Shifts focus from your opinion to theirs. These are lies of omission. You are not saying I like it. You are saying something true that allows them to infer what they want to hear. The let's get together protocol. When you say let's get together sometime to someone you have no intention of seeing, you are not lying. You are performing a ritual. The ritual requires that you make a vague statement of future intent. It does not require follow-through. If the other person attempts to schedule, you then escalate to a gentle truth. Things are really chaotic right now. Let me circle back when I have more bandwidth. Part 4. The protective shield lie. Shielding vulnerable people. Children, elderly parents, and people in crisis often cannot handle full truth. Protective shield lies create a safe envelope of simplified reality. For children. Child, why did grandma die? Truth. Her heart stopped because her blood vessels were clogged from decades of poor diet and genetics. Overwhelming, frightening, useless. Protective lie. Grandma was very old, and her body was tired. She died peacefully, and she loved you very much. Accessible, comforting, true enough. The age-appropriate truth scale, age 3 to 5. Simple, concrete, reassuring lies are ethical. Age 6 to 9. Simplified truths, grandma was sick, are better. Age 10 to 12. More complete truths, still buffered. Age 13 plus. Full truth, delivered with support. For elderly parents. Parent, can I still drive? They cannot. Their reflexes are gone. Their vision is failing. Truth. No. You're a danger to yourself and others. Humiliating. May cause depression or rebellion. Protective lie. The doctor recommends that we sell the car and use the service. Let's try it for a month and see how it feels. The lie is in the framing. The doctor recommends. The doctor may have suggested, not recommended. But the outcome, parent safe, dignity intact, justifies the misdirection. The crisis shield. A friend has just been fired. They ask, was I terrible at my job? Truth. Yes, you missed several deadlines and your attitude was poor. Kicks them when they are down. Protective lie. You weren't terrible. You were in a role that wasn't right for your strengths. That's a management problem, not a you problem. This is a lie if they were, in fact, terrible. But it is a useful lie because it prevents despair and opens the door to honest conversation later, when they are stable enough to hear it. Part 5. The motivational lie. Creating self-fulfilling prophecies. Rosenthal's bloomers succeeded because someone believed in them. Sometimes the belief is false initially, but the act of believing makes it true. The I see potential lie. You manage a junior employee who is struggling. They are not currently good. But you say, I see real potential in you. I wouldn't invest this time if I didn't think you could do it. This is a lie if you do not actually see potential. But the statement changes your behavior, you invest more time, and their behavior, they try harder. 6 months later, they have potential, because you lied. Though you can do this lie. Your partner is anxious about a presentation. They can probably do it, but not confidently. You say, you're going to be great. You know this material better than anyone. The second clause may be false. But confidence improves performance. Your lie creates the conditions for its own truth. The boundary of motivational lies. Do not use motivational lies in high stakes, Low feedback contexts. Telling someone they are ready to be a surgeon when they are not kills people. Telling someone they are ready for a promotion when they are not hurts their career and your credibility. Use motivational lies only when the stakes of failure are low. A presentation, not a surgery. Feedback is rapid. They will learn the truth soon. You will be there to help if they struggle. Part 6. The self-deception paradox. The most important protective lies are the ones you tell yourself. The "I can handle this" lie. You are overwhelmed. You do not know if you can handle it. But you say to yourself, "I've handled difficult things before. I'll handle this too." This is a lie if the evidence suggests you might fail. But the lie activates coping resources. You try harder, seek help, break the problem down. Often, you succeed, and the lie becomes truth. The "it will be worth it" lie. You are in the middle of a difficult project, a hard degree, a challenging relationship. You tell yourself, "It will be worth it in the end." You do not know this. It might not be worth it. But the lie sustains you through the difficulty. And sometimes, the only way to find out if it is worth it is to finish, which you would not do without the lie. The healthy delusion. Psychologists have found that mentally healthy people systematically overestimate their abilities, their control over events, and their future happiness. Depressed people are more accurate. Accuracy, in this case, is a disease. The strategic deceiver knows that some lies are not failures of reality testing. They are scaffolding, temporary structures that support you until you can stand on your own. The debrief. After any protective lie, ask 1. Whom did this lie serve? If it served only you, it may not be protective. If it served the other person or the relationship, it likely was. 2. Would the truth have caused unnecessary harm? Unnecessary is the key word. Some truths cause necessary harm. A child needs to learn that actions have consequences. But many truths cause only pain. 3. Is there a path from this lie to a future truth? The best protective lies are bridges, not walls. They soften the present while allowing reality to be introduced later, in digestible pieces. 4. Did I use a protective lie when silence would have worked? Sometimes the kindest deception is no statement at all, a nod, a hug, a change of subject. 5. Would I want someone to tell me this lie if our positions were reversed? If the answer is yes, you have found an ethical protective lie. If you would want the truth, do not lie to them. You will tell hundreds of protective lies this year. Tell them well. Tell them with intention. And remember, the goal is not to avoid truth forever. The goal is to create a world where, eventually, the truth is no longer frightening, because the lies made it safe enough to arrive.